How Bizarre is intended for mature, open-minded audiences only. If you are easily offended, we suggest you turn this wacky shit straight off. 45 feels a lot different than 40. you wouldn't have guessed. And I always say the same thing. It's not the years that age you, it's the living. And the last 5 years, from divorce to now, has been pretty fucking livey. Yeah. It's what we call very, very livey. I mean, good Lord.
It was really just fuck it. We'll do it live for 5 years.
Oh boy, I'm ready to pre-tape. All right, let's get someone else on board. My voice is a little thrashed today. It's all windy and I'm looking out the window. I got a new setup. I really opened up my living room and pushed everything against the wall. So I'm literally podcasting out one of these giant windows up on my top floor. Huh. I can see nothing but blossoms and buds just flowing in the wind. And I'm like, just looking at it, it's making me sneeze. So I apologize for the extra raspy voice today. Anywho, wow, feels like it's been a while. I guess it kind of has.
Yeah, thanks for, it was my fault we missed last week, guys. Everyone listening at home.
Was it?
I needed the week off.
I don't even remember.
I just needed it.
Sometimes it's like, I think one of us is maybe like hesitantly says, God, I don't know, like, I feel like I could use a week off. And I feel like almost always the response is, oh, thank Christ, me too.
All right.
Yeah, maybe it's not quite as dramatic as all that. But yeah, I mean, we all got shit to do. And sometimes sitting down to take a couple hours to record just feels like more work. But not tonight because I ain't bringing nothing. I mean, I got a few emails and we can shoot the shit. I do have one news story that happened very locally. I want to talk about, and then we can go whichever where y'all want. Lyle, did you manage to join us? Looks like you're there. I see you, but I don't hear you.
I don't see him on the call.
Well,
I see his name, but I don't see his icon.
Yeah, you're right. His name's up there.
Well, we'll just keep rolling until he hops on. Maybe he's like 12 rings deep into his VR and helper there.
No, you could be right. You could be right.
Like, stop blowing me up. I'm almost there.
Yeah. I imagine time could slip away, no pun intended, when you're spending a little one-on-one time with an intense sex toy. I will say I just moved into a little downtown office space. It's good to be working downtown again, even though it's...
I saw those photos. They're adorable.
Yeah, you like my little...
Yeah, you're painting up on the wall and everything.
Yeah. It's easy for me to decorate. Just put some orange shit in, little mid-century stuff. And the rest is just showing off my shit. It was fun to put... for anyone that doesn't know, I moved the Comet office downtown. I've been wanting to work downtown just so I can be more centrally located. I don't really need an office because... most of the deals that I make concerning like projects or most of the interviews I conduct or most of the things that I do, selling advertising even, most of that shit happens in coffee shops and bars more than anything. But, you know, with things still kind of eking back to normal and after a year plus working in my PJs at home, I just missed working downtown and it's already felt pretty nice. It's like, even though it is still kind of a ghost town comparatively, you know, where it should be, but there's still just more energy. You do run into people and it's like, I fucking missed all this. I'm excited for it to develop. I need to get an office chair. That's one thing I've noticed. Holy shit. If you do a lot of work at a desk, I don't care if it's typing, video editing, porn watching, you're going to need yourself a comfy fucking chair. Now, I know that probably sounds like a no-brainer to y'all, but this is a relatively new discovery for me because
this is the first time you treated yourself to like a fucking proper desk chair? Is that what you're telling me right now?
Well, I'm about to. I bought one. I bought one, you know, the one that I always sit in and the one that I sat in when the studio used to be in that cramped little room. When we all started this podcast, we all did it in the same room. That little chair. This is just an office chair. I probably spent $80 on it 15 years ago. But, $80 15 years ago bought you a decent office chair. $80 don't get you much of an office chair these days. What it gets you is those ones that, there's no arms and they just they got like the cheap little wheels. I like the kind that are around conference tables that you're supposed to sit at for like 15, maybe 20 minutes. And you're lucky if you get that. I was shocked, but
yeah, they're like $400 for a great one.
For a good one. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of like, there's no ceiling to anything really, but that's, if you're going into an Office Depot for $400 or $500 is about as high as they tend to get. And you're going to get a pretty good chair. I was sitting in some for $150, $200. I was like, yeah, this is pretty good. But God, I was expecting to spend about $100. This is a little steeper. Then I saw the $400 at one, and that was like, most of them were more than $200. So I started sitting in those. I'm like, oh no, I shouldn't have done this.
Yep.
But if you think about it, I will spend more time in that chair than I probably spend in my bed. Now I have a really nice bed. I don't really have any other furniture. I got furniture, but I never sit in it in my house. I don't sit in my couch and watch TV. I don't sit like most folk. Or a lot of folk, I should say. I don't recline, kick up my feet, and watch some tube. I'm either sitting at my desk working, out and about somewhere, or in bed. That's kind of my life. Mm-hmm. Which is ironic that we call it the living room. But so I am thinking about, I can't see spending $400, but I'm thinking about leaning more toward $250, $275 instead of the 100. And I think I was 125 was the first one I said. I was like, yeah, that's fine. I don't really think about it. I don't treat myself to anything. I don't think about
This is an investment for your body at this point, Ron.
And I already got issues. I already got carpal tunnel stuff. I've got twitching back.
I worry about you, Ronster.
Well, I'm not doing myself any favors. This is, and it's not even a splurge. That's what's funny. Like, this is something you should do if your entire life is sitting at a computer, editing or writing or the aforementioned porning, which probably accounts for 2% of my time at a computer, maybe less. Actually, it's got to be less. I'd love to see a pie chart. My porn pie chart is sadly slivered.
Hate to see mine.
I would love to see yours too. It would be inspiring. I know that people have porn addictions, and porn is a real problem for a lot of people. But I always aspire to watch more porn because I just don't watch enough porn. But very little porn, as I've talked about many times, very little porn speaks to me. Love the idea of it. I tend to watch shit that just doesn't get made as much as the other stuff. And again, that sounds like I'm into freaky shit. I'm not. I think I'm just kind of into lame shit, like stuff that most people don't really find all that interesting. I'm not super hardcore kind of guy. But, and I do mean but, I like the idea of a cake, because here's how I look at it. And going back to the chair, it's a little slice of me time. It's a little slice of, I worked hard today. I'm going to kick back. You can't, in almost a meditative way, you can't really do anything else while you got the porn situation going. And
very distracting.
Yeah. And so, sometimes it's like, I'm going to pull something up and then pull something out. And other times it's like, you know how you almost like plan for it? It's like, you know what? When I get my ass home, I'm making a whole thing about it. I'm going to lay out the towel.
I've got a date with me.
It is exactly making a date with you. It's like, I'm going to pour myself a little wine, put on some mood music that will be rapidly drowned out.
There's times where I was like, I know I've got the house to myself because I don't get this much me time as I used to.
Sure.
Child, and me and Bridget still live together, and so when I know that I'm gonna have a couple hours to myself, it's exactly that. I'm like roll that special joint, get my chair ready, my computer chair.
Hopefully you spent well. Well, going back to the computer chairs, these mesh ones. Now, I worked for a local production studio, as I've talked about, I think a few times on the show here in Wenatchee. From time to time, I did a little bit of editing, a little bit of production work, but mostly they hire me as my voice cracks to do voiceover stuff. And so I go in the studio there, but they have these, I don't know how much to spend on them. I would guess that they dropped a chunk of dough on them because they just, it's hard to explain if you haven't sat in these kinds of chairs. And now not all the mesh chairs are created equally. That's a fairly, to my radar, it's a fairly new phenomenon. Like I didn't know that was a thing until just a couple of years ago. And it was the first time I saw one was when I sat down on one of theirs chair. And I was like, oh my God, this is the lumbar, like kind of like everything flexes with you.
Do you feel like that? Do you feel like that was a fad though that went away? Because I saw nothing but mesh chairs for like 10 years almost, like except 5 years.
Could be. That makes sense. I'm always behind the time.
Well, now I think
that was just because it was the new hotness, so everyone was like trying their hand at the technology, right? And then a few companies probably figured out, oh, this is the ultimate configuration for that, so there's less of them. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. Now the popular thing is like the gamer chair, which has some of it has a bit more swag, if you will, but that design is popular. It's like got more of a headrest in the back and armrests, and it usually comes with like a little pillow for your neck and shit. And like I see those everywhere, or maybe it's because I was shopping for a chair and now I see fucking ads everywhere for it. But I feel like they're
gaming. Everywhere. I mean, God, you're. I think most people will spend way more time in a chair gaming than they will working, even if they work a lot. Gaming is something that you just kind of zone out. I think you could easily lose 6 hours in a chair. So yeah, you're going to want to be nice and cush. No, I saw some, I don't know. I kind of consider those to be more almost novelty chairs, but they definitely had stuff like that weren't quite so geared. Like they would work for any situation, of course. But I don't know, going back to the mesh thing, I don't know. It seemed like it was about 50-50. Maybe there were a few more of the leatherback ones, the more traditional cushy ones than mesh. And I didn't sit in too many of the mesh ones because I didn't want to fall in love with something I couldn't afford. Most of those were a little more expensive. The ones that looked legit, like the ones that I sat at North 40 Productions here in town, it just... I accidentally discovered how magical it was because it was just like I went to like lean back and stretch a little bit, and that's when I realized that the mesh thing went back with you, like it reclined with you. And it's like, oh no, but then when you wanted to sit up, it pushed you gently back up, and then that little lumbar support came out and it perfectly propped you back up into proper posture. We were talking about that earlier. Proper posture, and to go back to work. I'm sure there are people laughing out there. Old man Evans discovered these new fandangled chairs. I'd never experienced it. And for someone like me who, again, I don't have an ergonomic sense. I don't have an ergonomic setup. You guys have seen in fact, I'm going to take a picture. I don't think you guys have seen my current setup, but this is, well, you definitely remember the old studio.
Oh,
and how Jimmy rigged all that was. That hasn't changed. I just have new equipment. So take a look at my double monitor setup here. Now you see what kind of things I will put together to achieve a certain thing. God. That's my life. That's my entire life.
Is that a cassette holder propped up as a monitor stand?
Okay, so working left to right. It's an old reverb box that's holding up my Mac. But below that is the actual cash register drawer from Radar Station. And then directly right across that is an old, that red and black. I'll post this picture for the the episode photo this week. That is an old turntable, like the old portable turntables. And yes, sitting on top of that, where that beautiful cigar is waiting for me, is one of those little 3-drawer cassette storage drawers. And then
I used to have one of those.
Then my little Scarlett interface.
Can we go over your open Chrome tabs too? Over
Oh, sure. Yeah. Anything catching your. Trust me, there's never going to be anything interesting. Well, that's not true. It just won't be. Yeah.
As interesting as I'm hoping.
No, never. Well, although, let's see. No. Yeah. No, it's all security webcam stuff. And there isn't even anything loaded. I'm all work, boy. See, that's the point.
I like that security webcam labeled Asian whores too. That's weird. I've seen that before.
It's Asian wholesale. It just got cut up.
Oh.
See,
Yeah.
we see
Mine
what
too.
we want to see. But going back to full circle here, I'm all work and no play. But that's about to change because COVID hopefully is creeping away. But we are in our county. We are in phase 3. But the governor's threatening to push us back into phase 2 if we. I think if we only get like a couple more cases. And I was thinking, like, God, if I get symptoms, I'm feeling like scratchy throat and all that. 90% sure it's allergies. But if I wake up tomorrow and I feel like, oh shit, I got a cold, I'm gonna be like, do I want to get tested and be the one to put us back in phase 2?
Yeah, dude.
That would feel horrible.
You gotta be the canary in the coal mine, brother.
Oh, I will. I definitely will. But isn't that a funny thought? It's like, God, that could be me closing somebody's business for another, who knows? Like, he's not saying when the next check would be.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been you, though. It would have been all the fucking idiots that led up to the fact that had to get to that point. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, I suppose you're right. Well, I don't know. Should I be worried about Lyle? This hasn't happened before.
He probably just didn't. Yeah, I think he probably just forgot.
I wonder if he.
I don't know. He usually doesn't forget. He's usually the one most chomping at the bit to get to it.
Yeah, and he never seems to miss texts.
Well, he just never responded today.
All right. Well, yeah, I guess we'll just move on. Holy shit, there's a huge hawk that just flew by. Anywho,
do we have someone we could pull in for a news quiz if we needed to, though? Because I doubt you guys are going to want to go heads to heads.
Maybe I can get Holly.
That would be fucking great.
Well, let me see. Let me reach out to her.
I could put news quiz on speakerphone, and Jen could play too.
Shit, yeah.
We'll see what we can come up with.
I got a couple of good ones, and they're kind of a couple of them are random trivia too, so it's kind of nice. Guys, I'm real tired. I'm sorry if I sounded. It's just been like 2 weeks of insanity for me. It feels like
no, it seems like it's going around. Like I felt that way too for the last couple of weeks.
Oh, man.
I used to feel this more in when summer shifted into autumn, but the older I get, the more I feel drastically affected by the seasonal shift. So maybe it's that.
Maybe
on top of, how old are you now?
I am gonna be motherfucking 40 in 2 months.
Wow.
Hey guys,
are you 50 this year, John Mark?
I'm gonna be 50 in July.
Oh my God, you old fuckers! Ugh.
I'm kind of caught off guard by. I was thinking that John Mark was turning 50 this year, but I was not doing the math right on Christopher turning 40. Well, that goes back to my point.
I was younger?
Yeah, I was thinking that maybe you were like 30, 36, 37.
Dude, no.
God,
I wish.
Sometimes you're only 6 years younger than me. Sometimes it seems like you're closer to 10. But, just with like pop culture things more than anything. Mm-hmm. But, well, yeah, there you go. 40. When I was about 35 is when I really started feeling like my body was starting to fall apart. 40, I was so busy moving around, getting radar station, everything going, that it's almost like, I really do believe in that motto, by the way, a body in motion stays in motion. And that might be one of the reasons why I've been hit really hard lately with the crazy fucking, is it lethargy? I never know how that's
lethargy. Yep.
Lethargy. I I never
It's
know
lethargic if you're acting that way. If you're acting lethargic.
if it's something new or if it's because I wasn't moving around. But lately, I've been walking like 8 miles almost every single day.
You got to feel good then, man. Your body has to feel pretty good after that.
Well, you'd think, but I'm still pretty fucking wiped out.
Man.
I still drink too much, though. I need to
I don't know
cut
if
way
I'm
back.
walking 8 miles a day, but since we got this dog, I went from basically
that picture.
I basically went from 0 exercise to I walk him 3 times a day basically now. So I don't know what that
Well, you
comes out
gotta
to in miles.
check
but
your
it's
phone.
like-
Pull your iPhone out right now. Hit the health thing. It's been keeping track of your steps all along. It'll tell
It
you.
sure has. It's been spying on me this whole time. I totally forgot about that feature.
It can be.
That's so funny.
It can be a wake up call. It was a wake up call for me because I looked back, and they're just in your calendar, so you can. It saves it in your health app, but open it up. It'll show you. Unless for some reason you had it turned off. Most people don't. But I could look all the way back to my radar days where I was walking about 15 to 20,000 steps every day, which equates to about 10 miles if it's, 20. And so I was walking 10 miles a fucking day. That's the entire loop trail around our town. And so I pulled it up and was like, what have I been walking like today? And it was like at 283 at 4 in the afternoon. So I looked at yesterday and it was like 680 and I was like, holy shit. It's like, well, fucking big mystery where this belly and all these appetites came from. That's what I call my man boobs. So I started walking again, first around my living room because I was too busy editing shit when I made this discovery. So I got my little stair stepper out, started walking steps on it, and it counts those too.
Oh man!
So I guess I walked 2.5 miles today.
You walked what?
Nice.
2.5 miles today.
That's not bad.
Not as much as I thought, but whatever.
I gotta be honest. We were talking about how you feel, and when you turn 35, 40. I really hate the fact that I'm turning 40. I don't feel like I'm 40, but I feel like I'm in probably the best shape I've been in forever. I feel like over the summertime, I think I talked about it, but I can't remember. I trained for a 5K, and the only reason I did it was because like 6 months prior, I was talking with a friend, and she was like, "We should do a 5K sometime." I'm like, "That's fucking cool. We should." And I said, "I'm training for a 5K" in a Facebook comment, and Bridget's like, "You're not fucking training for a 5K. You don't even have one." So I was like, "God damn it! You're right." So I made one for like 2 months later, and I fucking trained for it. And I know it's stupid, like for people that run, 5K is nothing, but for somebody like that doesn't run, it was a lot of work, man.
Yeah.
So like I took a few months off of the diet once the quarantine hit, but I got back on it over the new year, and I'm feeling great. Like not having sugar in my body, and
it's a big
doing
one.
doing the occasional intermittent fasting, and like I'm not even talking like over a day. I'll intermittent fast. I'll have my dinner, and then I'll eat like a late lunch the next day, and that's the first time I have food, and I feel so good.
Yeah,
it's weird.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't know. And then I feel like I have to have the energy to keep up with Logan, like, and that I feel like that's keeping me young, but probably draining my soul faster. Like I'm gonna age super quick afterwards.
I
don't know.
Yeah, it might be doing a little of the both, but I definitely think it's more of the former. Like I said, having kids in my life and just razzling around with them in the living room is exhausting. But sometimes we go running around the house and, full on playtime. And it's just like any other training. You're doing cardio and
my shoulders have never been so. I'm not like ripped, I'm not jacked or anything, but I've never had such fucking upper body strength as I do now.
Yeah.
From having
parent arms are
dad strength,
constantly being ripped. By the time the girls were in my life, they were just kind of getting out of being carried size. So I didn't do much of that, but yeah, Sarah was always lugging one of them around, usually one of them half asleep. But yeah, that's legit too. But I think overall it's pretty good. I think you're going to rock your 40s. I enjoyed being 40. 40 was a fun year for me, even though it was heavy in a lot of ways. And, it was a very transitional year. I was married in the first part of it and not married in the second part of it. But,
Yeah, 40's pretty great. That's fine.
I thought I'm enjoying my 40s. as far as like I'm concerned, like health wise, sure I could be doing better, but we all could. I mean, this past year has been the ultimate in you deserve to crack one open at 1 p.m.
Backslider.
PJs, and it's like, yeah, it was so easy to do. But now I think a lot of people are getting back out there and realizing that it's really not that hard to get back into it. But
you just have to decide to.
I think a lot of people are realizing, we joked around about the COVID-19 being a real thing, like you gain the 19 pounds. That's what I was estimating. Now that I have been losing the weight and I see how much further I have to go, I think it was more like fucking 30, if I'm being honest. I think I gained 30
fucking
pounds.
Did you gain 30 pounds, Ron? It's hard for me to imagine.
Well, yeah, this goes back to when I first quit Radar Station. Yeah, absolutely. Because I went from, I don't think it was quite 30, but it was well over 20 pounds. Because I've lost 20 pounds and I still have, there's still some clothes I can't fit back into yet. I got another 10 pounds to lose. So yeah, I think I gained about 30 pounds.
So I was thinking during the last year, like, like obviously I was like, wasn't making a conscious decision necessarily, but it was just like, I'm just fucking eat whatever I fucking want, drink whatever, you know what I mean? Like my dog died, everything's going to hell.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna like do whatever I want to make myself feel good, and like be okay. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I figured, okay, well, I'll probably end up gaining a bunch of weight because I couldn't go to the gym and I don't have the discipline to do all that shit that I did at the gym at home. Like I just don't, like
Mm-hmm.
I need some more structure for that than just being in that, because I do everything in my fucking house right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like, so anyways, I was thinking to myself, oh man, I'm probably going to be like, I don't know, 200 and whatever. Like, I have no idea. Like for me, it's like over 200 is kind of like the thing. Right. And
that's when you're like the danger zone. Or wait, is that where you want to be?
No, like that's the danger zone would be like, like for me would be like, I don't know, like over 200, like by a significant amount, not just 200. Cause I've been at 200 ish before. And I was like, yeah, I could probably lose a few pounds, but I was like, I haven't weighed myself the whole time, except for a couple days ago. I was like, step on the scale, see what's going on.
Surprise, motherfucker.
196 and a half. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, seriously? I haven't put on basically any weight.
Wow. Lucky you.
Like, I was like, what the fuck? I think it's because I only eat kind of like twice a day. And I really don't like, I tell myself, oh, you can eat whatever you want. But I really don't go crazy,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you never know with muscle mass and all that stuff too. It can be a little confusing, but I think it's probably a good idea.
Probably a lot of the stuff that I had built up in the gym pre-pandemic did turn to mush.
It literally turns to mush, but you'll get it back, and it's good to know that you're starting off good. Now, what I'm excited about is I'm about to see 8 roll over to 7. Because it's funny, we talk about losing like 10, 15, 20 pounds. So when you lose 3 pounds, it's not that exciting, but when you're going from 181 to 178, that's exciting. You get to see that middle number go. And I think I was 190, which is the heaviest I've been, or 192 or something like that. That's the heaviest I've been in 20 years.
Yeah, I think down to 192-ish was like the lowest I got in the last few years. I think that was when I got down to about 192, it was like, you know what? Now I'm just like fucking with the water weight and shit, so I'm not even gonna pay attention anymore and just do things, like.
Could you guess what my high was?
Of all time?
Yeah, like it was, while I was on this podcast, you something you would have seen. Well, I was, living away at the time, but
this feels like a trap.
Yeah, no, it does, huh? Yeah.
I don't want to guess.
No, it's okay.
I would say 225. Your biggest.
275.
Well, you are tall though. It's hard for me to. You're a tall, broad man. So that on me I would look like Grimace.
Yeah.
But on you,
like Grimace occasionally. Yeah.
That would just look like a bigger, tall man.
I grimace to see the older photos. So,
Do we have any kind of consensus on what the fuck Grimace is?
Hello.
He's purple.
Oh, there he is.
There he is.
Woo! All right.
We were getting a little
You're not
worried.
You're not calling from
Check.
beyond, are you, Lau?
Check. 1, 2. Maybe it's possible. As you can tell, probably from my voice, that I just woke up, boys and girls.
Oh, shit.
He
Took a
just
little
had a nap,
snooze.
guys.
But I got that good deep voice going on.
You got the
I don't know what
from the
happened.
kingdom of Nye.
Say, hey, girl, what you got, girl?
Hey, girl, what you got, girl?
Oh,
I don't know.
damn. I'm wet.
Mhm.
I need to wake up a little bit, but hey, hi guys.
Well, we're just
the
shooting
party,
the
baby.
shit. You haven't missed anything really. So
270, huh? Jesus Christ, Chris.
mhm.
Yeah, I'm at,
and
I'm
he's
at
back.
221. I'm at 221 right now, but I'd like to get down to like 190. I think I could do it.
That's fucking awesome, actually.
Yeah.
I was 260, before I got sick, and I've been roughly about 245 the last month. The last 3 months. But I would love to lose weight down to get to 220 again.
Yeah.
Feels good, get lean. It's a real up and down struggle for me, for
It's
sure.
nice to fit
I don't
back
know,
into
but-
your
And
favorite tight
that's
clothes,
the
isn't
thing
it?
too, is that like we all are built differently. So for each of we each have like different weights, like that. For one, you know what I mean? For like,
Mhm.
so for me, it would be probably like, I don't know, 185, I guess. But if you're taller and differently proportioned, being around 200 is the same thing. It's weird.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good about not having sugar and stuff like that. Like I drink my coffee black. I don't fuck around. I don't eat like sweets. Say desserts. Ice cream, stuff like that. Usually
about bread?
A lot of bread. Usually.
Yeah, that's a lot of
Yeah,
sugar.
that's where
That's
where
what all
people
is.
get it mostly in this country anyway. Yeah, bread and sauces we don't think of as sugar, but who it is. Bread is the stuff that just makes my fucking body ache. My mom made me some.
But it's so delicious.
I can't eat any
is.
of it these days anyway. But my mom made me these chocolate covered cashews using some chocolate that I can eat, not non-dairy. And it was so fucking good. But the sugar in that, I think it was just honey. And I only ate like 2 little clusters. God, I was ached. My whole body just felt like shredded wheat the next day, just from that little bit of sugar after cutting it out. Other than that, the only sugar I get is from booze. Now I get plenty of booze, but I don't know how much.
Plenty of booger.
I don't know how much sugar that equates to in my body, but that's really the only way I get it on a ongoing basis. If I didn't drink, I would probably be in a constant state of ketosis.
Mhm.
At the time, before I got sick, I had like 16-inch arms, and now they're like maybe 10. They're small. And it's
60-inch arms?
16-inch.
I was like,
60.
whoa.
You measure
I
your
must
biceps
break you.
like around.
Stop saucing, Lyle.
Juice.
60-inch arms, all right, Popeye? Chill.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
That's bigger than my TV.
Right.
Well, any news stories you guys want to bring or life stories? This is a casual one this week. Anything. I do have some good emails. Not many, but as per usual, the ones we got are pretty good. And I'll get to those in a little bit, and then we'll end on the usual weird triv. Before I pass it off to you guys, though, I did want to say maybe this is an international story. It certainly would have made national news. But a couple weeks ago, we had some fire in the sky over the Pacific Northwest, and a lot of people saw it and were like, holy shit, what the fuck is it? Tons of people got footage of it, and lots of people saw it right here in Wenatchee. Really just about anywhere between Oregon, I think the entire Pacific Northwest saw it, maybe even further out than that, but definitely that region. And what it ended up being was one of the SpaceX rockets burning up on reentry. Not one of the manned ones, of course, but coming in and doing what it's supposed to do, which is burn up in the atmosphere in reentry. However, it didn't really burn up. It broke apart. And this is not good for many reasons. And one such reason we experienced over here. Now, they haven't given the details exactly where this farm was, but somewhere within probably a 100 square mile radius of Wenatchee, they found this large canister. It was like some sort of pressurized vessel is what they were calling it. I don't know what exactly it did, but it looked like a pretty big chunk of metal that landed in this guy's farm. And so he contacted the authorities, and I think by the time he found it, everyone knew what those fires in the sky was. And so SpaceX was contacted, and they came and sent their top men to come collect it. And that was that. And they kept it a secret where it landed. It probably because people didn't, the farmer didn't want people coming to look for more peace. Peace has fallen, but it got me thinking that if there was that piece, there's got to be other pieces all over the place. And it's fucking, I can't believe that no one has died by getting conked on the noggin by one of these pieces of space trash, because whether it's rockets or old satellites or old weather equipment that is up in orbit, it all eventually comes back down. Now, most of it will burn up, but obviously, like every year, seems like a piece of it falls somewhere. It's terrifying.
Non-related. You remember hearing stories about like gangbangers? They would like shoot bullets up in the air, and then like tragically, from 6 blocks away, and like a mother with her kid gets shot.
I've heard stories like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like
people celebrating or just being dickheads, and
for sure. Even like New Year, whatever. Yeah, that shit happens quite a bit.
We used to, not to make light of coming off of that, but the dipshit version of that was we used to, Lyle, you must have experienced this with us in our backyard. My brother's the one that came up with it. You can either load a BB gun the proper way by putting the BBs in the chamber and, cocking it back and loading one and then firing it and repeat. Or you can drop them all in through the tube of the barrel itself and then pump it to 10 and then point it up and then just shoot 30 BBs into the air and then sit and wait until it all rains down on you painfully, or maybe it's coming down on the neighbors. It was always the best when it came down on the neighbors. They had that big metal like workshop. that was one of the most satisfying sounds. It was so fucking loud. But holy shit, when that came down and hit you in the head, it hurt like hell. But being, stupid teenage boys, we thought that was funny as fuck. Yeah. So I can vouch. I mean, and those are BBs. So I can only imagine how fast. I wonder if Mythbusters has handled it. It seems like something they might have done. How fast a bullet is going when it comes back down. I feel like it could probably. It's got to be going pretty fast.
It's terminal velocity, it's as fast as anything will fall. Terminal. So.
Yeah, don't go shooting up in the air.
I was completely upset with myself because I've been stagnant with my photography and stuff like that. And that particular night, what we're talking about, this has looked like basically like a giant meteor shower.
It was a spectacle. It was something to see. I'm sad I missed it.
Yeah, and I was there's a photographer that it seems like every time I post something kind of cool, like if I go up to Leavenworth or make do some drone photos, this guy seems to always copy me. And for the first time, I was like, you know what, I'm going to copy him for one time, and I was going to go up to the Wenatchee Heights.
Take from my lawyers, Lyle.
Well, I was back to you because he had a good idea. One of his photos he had. You go all the way to the Wenatchee Heights and you go up to that giant cross that's up on the hill, and try to get a focus of the Wenatchee Valley at night. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go fucking do that tonight. I'm going to do that right fucking now.
I swear on the cross, I'll steal that guy's work.
Well, I
think I know the photographer you're talking about.
Yeah, probably.
That's kind of his shtick, the cross thing.
Yeah, and I just thought, and I usually would keep that alone, but I was like, it's a good idea, and why not give it a try? Because I could probably do it better.
Well, if he's copying,
not to be like that, but like I could probably make it a little bit better. And so I planned on going, and then I just, I feel like shit. Maybe tomorrow or something.
There's not going to be anything worth seeing tonight.
It was that fucking it was that night.
Oh man!
I would have got up there. I would have got the drone in the air. I would have got it all focused in, and then all of a sudden, this fucking goddamn meteor shower would have been right across the valley.
Yeah,
it would have been the perfect shot.
That would have been amazing. Yeah, because no one got like a photo of it around here that I saw. It was all just do your best with the cell phones. And it was really the videos that turned out better. So yeah, if you had an actual camera focused on it, that would have been pretty cool.
Would have been cool.
Oh,
man.
life.
Yeah.
It's bigger.
So kids, every time you have something you want to do, go out and do it, because it could probably be the coolest thing you've ever did.
Well, that's the ultimate. This came up last week. That's kind of the ultimate FOMO situation, though, right? Because you can torment yourself with that. It's like, I'm not going out tonight. There's never anybody interesting at that bar. Dude, Duff McKagan was at the bar last night. We're all just shooting the shit. It's like, God damn, every time I gotta go at the bar. I gotta be at the bar every night. I lived that life. Oh boy, I don't know what it did for my liver, but I knew what it did to my bank account.
20s or 30s, I did kind of live that life a little bit.
Yeah, well, I became a bar fly way later than most people do, and I used to like to go out and shoot pool with my friends, throw some darts, do some karaoke, but in my 40s, I developed a keen interest in just showing up to places by myself with my laptop, and that's where I started to work. And if people came up to me and visited, which happened all the time, maybe work would be done for the night, or maybe I'd keep the laptop open so they'd get the hint to move on or whatever. I'd like to hybrid of both. And suddenly it just kind of became my lifestyle. And again, going back to the FOMO thing, you can't do it every night, because even if you're drinking iced tea, it's still spending money. And I added it up. I was spending about $500 a month on just beer. And I'm not even a crazy beer drink. Like, I don't drink that much beer these days. I drank beer in my youth. These days it's whiskey and wine more than anything, because beer just kind of
bloats you.
Although that's kind of what I like about beer. It's easier to me. It's easier to meter your drinking, or it was until these next level IPAs came out. Holy shit, man! Two or three of those IPAs now. Some of those are fucking
8%.
like 11%. It's like drinking wine. You're having like 3 pints of wine. And then you stand up to go pee and you're like, whoa, 3 beers ain't what it used to be. Them ain't 3 Coors Lights, son. Go ahead, Lau.
I found this hack, this little drunk hack of life, that if you went out on Thursday night, had a good time, got in early enough, like midnight, 1 o'clock, that Friday wasn't that bad. You could get through 8 hours, and then your weekend's that much longer.
Sure.
Yeah. If you haven't played that card, you got to get that card and try.
Mm-hmm.
If you're young and
I have picked up on teetotaling. So now when I do go out, I will start with an iced tea, even if it's like 6:30, 7 o'clock. Yeah, first one's going to be an iced tea. One, it does hydrate you, even though it has caffeine in it. You have to consume a certain, I think it's like 500 milligrams or something like that. Look it up. Don't take my word for it. Before you start dehydrating yourself with caffeine. So an iced tea, you're nowhere near that. One glass of iced tea is probably like 30, maybe 40 milligrams of caffeine. And that's a strong tea. So it is hydrating you. And you just sit there and do your shit for $1.20. And then that takes you right into happy hour, son. Yeah. Maybe it's not a good life if you're wheeling and dealing with how to be a better drunk. But again, the whole point was not for me to get drunk or to be out and about super late. It's just like, this is a much funner place to work and to be out and about. But going back to the business end of things, I can't tell you how many meetings spontaneously happened, especially down at Pybus, but any place, coffee shops, bars. So it does feel, when I'm working at home, or probably even when I'm working in my new downtown office, if I'm cut off from the world, it does feel like I'm missing out on potential opportunities, because in my line of work, you got to be out there meeting people. It has been really hard chasing down stories on artists and musicians for an entire year to fill. We weren't doing the print version of the magazine, but we were packing it online. So now that that's coming back, the world's eking back. I'm looking forward to doing that again. But yeah, I can't be spending $500 a month on beer, because I still drink whiskey. I'm still spending probably a couple $100 a month on like good booze. Good. I mean, beer's good. Good beer's good. But you know what I'm saying? Like the heavy stuff, and then I'm drinking that too, and pretty soon it's like doing a lot of damage and spending a lot of money. And is it really panning out, even with the business opportunities? Don't answer that. But
for me, I had a hard time because I lived literally in front of like 4 or 5 bars that are in walking distance.
mm-hmm.
So, cause I live downtown, and like I could like literally out my front door be at the back door of a bar. So it's for me, it was like working a kind of shitty dead end job for 25 years. You know, I made good money, and so that going out on it like on a Thursday night would be kind of an escape. But like I was more of a social drinker. I really liked socializing with people.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't like, just sit alone at the bar, and get fucked up and stagger home. It was hanging out. And,
that was me.
And so like it became that little hack. It was crazy because it felt like you were only working 4 days a week and you had a 3-day weekend.
Yeah.
And I was like,
I like the Thursday night celebration. Mm-hmm.
Yes,
It's funny how most people do that on Wednesday. I think it's a lot of people choose to just break the week in half because Wednesday is a bigger going out day
ladies' night
than any other day except for the weekend. Friday and Saturday. Friday is by far the biggest.
Yeah,
But,
it's been years. I haven't drank in fucking Jesus, God, don't
mm-hmm.
even know how long. Because I quit drinking even before I had cancer, so it was like 2-3 years sober from that. So it's like it's been a while.
Yeah, the WinCon memories have been popping up. I'm sure you guys have been seeing those. I was like, holy shit, it's so long ago. Can't believe there's no WinCon. WinCon,
I think I had a drink with you guys up at the top, but
that must have been one of the last times you did. Let's see, was there something I was going to say before moving on? Where are we time-wise? Holy shit, are we already at 50 minutes? Is that right?
Yeah, we started.
God, I feel like there was something I wanted to add to that. Well, fuck it. Anything you guys want to bring? Stories?
I gotta bring a little what you watching. I have to report. I got John marked again, guys. We got John fucking marked again.
Oh, what does that mean?
You
chased one of his suggestions.
I did, and it again, he didn't disappoint.
He remains intact.
Legion on Hulu. I tuned it in, John Mark. I listen, buddy, and I do follow up on these. So I think I'm 3 eps in, and it's really good. That first episode, it's like an hour and 10 minutes. It's the pilot.
You're just like, brilliant. What the fuck?
It's so like it's such a visual treat to watch.
Yeah.
It's a cool show. Anyways, if you
that's the thing about this show is that like even if you don't understand exactly what's happening, and you won't, everything is just like a sensorial feast, right? Like the music and the visuals and the art direction, you're just like caught up in just what you're seeing and hearing. It's just so good.
A lot of it takes place in a mental hospital, Ron, the first episode, and you can't tell what year it is. Did you get a lot of that? Like I kept getting really confused about the time we were in. I thought it was like the 60s or the 70s, and then I'd see what looked like a tablet, and I'm like, what the fuck? Anyways.
Exactly. And that's the thing though, is that like the main character has multiple personalities, right? So you don't know at what point what you're seeing is happening in the real world and what's happening in someone's mind. You know
or
what I'm
in
saying?
The past. He's seen
exactly
like melding in the past because they'll be in a room and they'll be like 60s deco fucking on the coffee table, and you're like, this is the 60s. It has to be. And then you'll go to another thing, and anyways, we're checking out. Really cool. That's all I got.
Awesome. Well, speaking along that line of not being able to tell what the time period is, we just started doing a rewatch of Twin Peaks a couple days ago. And this is so weird because like I don't think I've ever actually watched the whole series from front to back. Like I've seen most of it, but the way I was introduced to it was like back in, I don't know, like early 90s, mid 90s or something. Like, but when I really started kind of watching it on like when it was like IFC's, like the IFC channel or something like that, Independent Film Channel. And I think I came in like halfway through season 1 and I don't know, you know what I mean? I had no idea where I came in. So I don't know I kind of like saw most of it, but I never saw it all like in order. And I've tried before, and like I had to quit at one point for whatever reason. So I'm going to do it again. And what's really kind of grabbing me, like watching the show, like starting it for like the third or fourth time, even, I don't even know, is that while a lot of it is like, you're like, oh my God, this is so 90s, but the way the show is written and set, it's like, you don't know when it's taking place, right? Because it's like, there's so much about it that seems like this is totally 90s, but there's other stuff that's like, oh, this is totally 50s. Oh, this is totally 70s. And it's just like all this, it's all mixed together. It's really strange. Huh. Did you get that? Did you get that vibe, Ron?
I had to put my headphones down right when you said what you were watching. I heard everything else. What?
Twin Peaks.
Twin Peaks.
Oh, that's funny. That's the show I assume you were talking about. Yeah. Yeah, I do. You're right. It is definitely locked into the 90s, but I think a lot of that is production and even just the look of the credits, which are parodied 100 times. But it is sort of not locked in any time because it was kooky. And I think that anytime you were doing something, because Twin Peaks was always weird. You know, Twin Peaks, I think sometimes when you get your shows that are locked into some sort of iconoclastic mindset of the era that it came out, and it doesn't matter what it is, you know, the Twilight Zone or the Wonder Years, things that are set even if they're set in a different time, they're still usually locked under the ideals and of the time, like Happy Days, you know, some of those characters that was supposed to be in the 50s or 60s, right? And some of those characters had froze. It's like they didn't have froze in the 50s, but it was a 70s, 80s show, so you wanted the kids to look stylish to some degree. Twin Peaks was weird when it came out. Like, it didn't feel like it belonged even when it came out. So I think there's something about those oddball shows that are a bit more timeless. What do you think about that third season?
Have not seen it yet. That was kind of my impetus to start from the beginning, because it's like I've seen enough people now say
the one thing I've seen that
season
you haven't
3,
seen.
Yeah, I've seen enough people now say that season 3 kind of like wrapped it all up perfectly or whatever, and I'm like, oh, okay, I need to just fucking start at the beginning.
People.
And some people,
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of one of those WTF kind of fucking shows, man.
Yeah, well, it's all it kind of has been.
Well, I know, like when me and I think it was Abby decided to power through it like years ago. We talked about it on the show because I never seen it. I sat through it. I literally powered through it in like 3 or 4 days, and watched it back to back. And it didn't seem like it was that memorable. There was a few shows, like episodes, that were just so out there that you literally forgot about it. And unfortunately,
I know what you mean, and that
you know
I think is what makes it rewatchable, though, because when you go back and you watch it, you kind of forget what happens in a lot of the storylines, and you forget about at least with me, because I did the same thing. First time I only saw a few episodes back when it was on. I didn't watch it until it was on DVD, and I was sick. I had a cold, and this is before Netflix. And I saw a pile of DVDs that Leah had laying around. I was like, I'm going to pop these in. We'll see what the Twin Peaks thing is. And I was just immediately hooked. I was like, well, the funny thing is season 1 is fairly straightforward. It's got that quirky vibe to it. And then season 2 gets a little wonky. And then season 3, so it is a progression. It's not like, you know, a lot of people act like the third season was just crazy bonkers bananas out of the blue. It wasn't, if you follow the whole progression, but it is definitely next level.
That's definitely escalates.
Oh, sure. Yeah, for sure. But I had watched it all probably in, I don't know, 2 or 3 days, the whole thing. Now, I didn't rewatch it for a few years, but I have since seen it 3 times all the way through, and I have contemplated watching it again. I mean, I'll definitely watch it again sometime, but I was contemplating doing that in the not too distant future, because it's something I could have on in the background to some degree. Not season 3. I've only seen that once. I haven't given that one a second go through. I watched the finale 3 times, but I haven't seen any of the rest of it more than once. So I'm looking forward to going back and watching that a third time, and I would love to experience it.
Did you finish Battlestar Galactica?
No, I had to put everything on hold because I'm doing more work with this apothecary and just other things in general. And the magazine takes it's hard to write when you got something on in the background, so it's mostly just music or white noise. But I will. I'm definitely I'm enjoying it. But that takes a lot of attention. You can't have old BSG on in the background. I tried that when I was making some art, and I was like, "Wait, what the fuck happened? Wait, who is this new character?" There's so many characters.
That's a show you need to actually pay attention to,
and so many storylines. And without spoiling anything, there are some very confusing things. Like, wait, is that character or is it that character? You know what I mean? Like like where and even it gets crazy. Timelines and. I don't want to spoil it for anybody because they don't get into some of this stuff until season 2 to some degree. But I will definitely finish BSG.
A fun one I'd like to actually go watch again, like we've all seen it, is go back and watch the X-Files again. But I don't want to hurt the love I have
Is
for
it
it.
so dated?
I felt the same way, but
I've done it.
It's only the first 2 or 3 seasons that really feel like, whoa, this is jarring. But even then, you get into the cadence of it. But by the time season 3, which I think season 3 is my favorite season, by the time that comes around, it looks a little slicker. The cadence is a little bit more what they locked in. It'll always feel dated. There's no question.
Well, it's like
I wouldn't worry about it because I did it. I redid the X-Files not that long ago, and it was like the second I was into it, I'm like, fuck yeah, we're doing this again. But it definitely gets better. Like halfway through season 2 is where it starts just being a little less jarring, I thought.
Honestly, I am counting down the days until Logan is of age where I can start introducing him to my favorite shit. What
are you going to start with?
I'd love to obviously get him into Star Wars proper, when he's old enough to maybe have a better grasp, because he doesn't really get it. It's just
monkey flying a spaceship, Dad? You're crazy.
Yeah, totally. That's what he'd think. But he loves Baby Yodo. He calls him Baby Yodo.
Yodo.
So that's pretty much the extent of where we're at. But I can't wait. I'm always like, man, you think 13 or 14 for Game of Thrones, Bats? 14? Okay, fine.
Boy, 14.
Shit like that.
Watching Game of Thrones with your 14-year-old. Think about how many cock-sucking scenes.
I know.
Trust
me, I've ran through all the scenarios, and I'm like, well, that's
skip it.
Well, it's just my moral compass is not entirely tuned.
You'd be like the Last Starfighter or something like that. You ever seen E.T. with real guns? Come on.
Show him the gun cut. Yeah.
No,
who knows how available any of the original shit will be by then. If you don't have it on some sort of hard device, there's no guarantee.
Have you guys ever been to somebody's house? Have you gone to a friend's house that had children, and you're just like hanging out with them or doing whatever, and there was something on the TV that you were like, wait, you're just letting this play and your kids are here and you're okay with this? Have you ever had that experience?
All the fucking time. I'm shocked with how people talk in front of their kids half the time. Like, I'm filthy mouthed. I just can't imagine just letting it all rip. I guess, I don't know.
Well, they might.
But it's just how I was raised. I don't know that that's wrong.
Well,
it just seems foreign.
They might have said that with us with like The Simpsons, and then you go into the Family Guy. I mean, that joke. I mean, all those jokes are like.
Well, that's kind of where I was going with it. It's
adults, humor.
It's like it's all relative, right? It's like what I might think would be appropriate for kids of a certain age, obviously, isn't the same thing as what other people think is okay. You know what I mean? It's just
I came from such a fucked up house in terms of having a good a good basis of comparison because most people would let their kids watch the Smurfs. My parents wouldn't. We couldn't watch the Smurfs because there was magic.
Satanic.
And, yeah, Gargamel.
Yeah, I think you've said this before. And
There's a wizard.
Like, what?
And people would come over and they'd be like, "Oh, let's watch Smurfs or DuckTales." Like, no.
Okay.
If it's a Magica Dispel episode, I'm gonna have to change it because she's a witch.
Well, I wasn't.
This was
allowed
like
to
when I
watch
was in
Star
high school,
Wars
by the
when
way.
it first came out in the theater.
Wow.
Badge.
Because of that kind of shit.
Wait, say that again.
I wasn't allowed to watch Star Wars in the theater when it first came out because my mom was like, George Lucas is a witch.
Well, you see, my mom was weird because she loved Star Wars and she also loved The Wizard of Oz, which has
Wizard right there.
wizardry, witches, casting spells, there's some pretty spooky shit in there too. And the fucking flying monkeys, say what you want, they're fucking demons. We all know it. And yet she loved that movie. So yeah, she would make exceptions for certain things, but not for the things we loved.
I'm just kind of bummed that I didn't get to see Star Wars in the original theater run, like when I was like 6 or 5 or whatever. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like
I got to see it in the original theater, but it was when they brought it back. Remember, they brought it back to get you excited about the Empire Strikes Back. So that's when I saw it. The first time I saw it must have been on TV. You kids today, speaking of Wizard of Oz and Star Wars, there were a handful of movies that they would play once a year. And it would just be on like ABC or CBS or one of the 3 to 5 channels that we had back in the late 70s, early 80s. And you waited all year to see it. This was before VCRs. This was, there were film projectors you could get, and some of them even had sound, but you weren't going to sit down and screen Star Wars. It would be like a 5-minute highlight reel, and it would be super exciting because you're watching it. That's how limited it was back then, son. So when Star Wars came on and we watched it, you had to get the rabbit ears just right because we lived way up in the Eniat Valley. We didn't have remotely clear reception. I remember the first time I saw like a VHS copy of Star Wars. It was like, oh my God, you can see everything. I didn't know there was all these little lights on the walls in the spaceship.
Holy fucking shit.
It was, but it was an event, man. You gathered around the TV. You saw it on TV Guide. You got the TV Guide just to thumb through it and say, when is Star Wars playing this year? When is, what's coming up? When's Wizard of Oz? Because it wasn't always on at the same time.
The problem with that, though, it was all censored out. One of the other things that used to happen, too, is
but Greedo still shot first. You got to give us that. And E.T., they had guns. So
they did.
They had walkie-talkies.
Some was a holdover is that besides going to the theater, one could go, with your family in the back of a truck and go to the drive-in. And those movies were held over. So, like, you could catch movies that were put out a year ago if you were lucky to get it in a mat, like because you're watching 2 movies back to back. Mm-hmm. So you'd have a new movie that would just came out and just out of the theater, and then maybe they might have tossed out an old one, So that was really fun for us in the early 80s.
Yeah.
My favorite thing was back when they started doing like these second run theaters where you could go and get like food and beer and shit.
Mm-hmm. You remember the first time you got to sit down with a beer in front of a theater screen? How magical!
One of the first movies I remember seeing that way was Memento. And so it had done its original theater run, and then it went to the second run theater, and it was like, what was it, like $2 or something? I don't know, $3. And you go and you sit down, you're like, I'll have a plate of nachos and a pitcher of beer, please. And you're watching Memento, and you're just drinking beer and eating nachos. It was
and in your head, great. You're dressed like a royal duke.
You got a monocle.
Bring me another, you hear.
Oh my God, I can hardly wait for the day where they have a cannabis-friendly theater. Oh,
well, the thing about the drive-in theater, you could sneak in beer. We did it all the time, just throw it underneath the sleeping bags, and then.
Sure. I mean, same with pot, but there is something magical about just not having to hide it, just sitting back and relaxing and just chugging a $19 Coors Light.
Well, it surprises me that it got faded out, and it surprises me during COVID it didn't make a comeback. Drive-in theaters.
Well, it did in some parts. I don't know if any dormant drive-ins went back to being in business, but I know a lot of them did pretty decent business. They were the only theaters open for a while. But
they started
what
doing
I'm surprised,
comedy shows.
Yeah, what people are doing, what people are doing more and more, and this is way cheaper concerning just about everything, is these pop-up drive-ins. We have the technology now. You can get these inflatable screens. You can get an empty parking lot with a white building and project this shit onto. The little FM transmitters to go to your radios are super cheap.
Sure.
I've got one. I got a couple laying around here, but so you can do these pop-up drive-ins, and I can't wait to play around with that when I don't want to deal with any COVID bullshit. I'm not doing any actual events until the COVID bullshit is completely over. But when it is, I'm looking forward to maybe dabbling in some of that. Everything, it's going to be nothing but pop-up for the Ronster. I got some pop-up art shows. I want to do some pop-up comedy events. I want to, host a lot of things in someone else's place so that I can cash my check and go home for the night. And I can't tell you how glorious that sounds after 4 years of paying $3,000 a month for downtown rent. I don't know how I ever did it. Well, should we get on to some emails or one more news story if you got one?
Let's do emails.
Let's get through the emails. I got a reasonable pile here, and some of them are asking us questions. I like it when they ask us questions. It's like doing our work for us. First up, this is from Kelly. Kelly says, "Hey, Ron and the gang. Sorry, couldn't resist."
We've been just relegated to the gang. Get fucked.
Did it on purpose. Couldn't resist. I love you all, in all caps. So a couple of weeks ago, I was spending some time with my dad, who used to be in the Army. And he said that a bunch of his buddies were telling him one time that they were in charge of guarding a bottomless hole in central Washington state back in the 1990s.
Maybe Mel's Hole?
Mm-hmm. He didn't know the name of it, but I said it had to be Mel's Hole. He was shocked that I had heard of it and that it had a name, so I filled him in on the whole tale, which I originally heard on your show, by the way, which that's going way the fuck back.
Mm-hmm.
That might have been one of the original 10 episodes. Definitely within the first 20 of Tales from the Space Pod. So I thought that was pretty amazing. Now, people bullshit in and out of the military, of course, but according to my dad, these weren't just legends or stories, but true accounts of an actual weird thing a small group of military folk were in charge of for a while. And before you even asked, no, he would never come on the show. I was going to
Damn
ask.
it.
He wouldn't even get into more details for an email. So for what it's worth, my belief in that strange story shot through the roof after that. Cheers. Well, thanks for that. Really intriguing. And yeah,
cool.
that was my first question. Would he be interested in recording a phone call? And probably doesn't have more to say than that, but...
Well, it's probably classified, and you probably can't talk about it.
Well, yeah, and it's funny that I never really stopped to think about how many bizarre things that some of the random people in the military have had to like handle or guard, or at least from a distance somehow be involved with protecting or keeping secrets, just like as hired guns, probably quite a lot of shit that they can't talk about, and they would come away with all these crazy fucking stories.
There's a pretty good episode of the recent Project Blue Book series that kind of goes into that, where this guy's like, I was in the military, and this is what they made us do. They just flew us out to this place in the desert, and we had to like dig these holes and put these tarps over this shit, and it's like, it was weird stuff, but they never said what it was, and we couldn't talk about it, and they never explained anything. We just were out there digging, but we saw it, and it was weird. You know what I mean?
It's kind of a quandary, because it's not like you're going to put your top men out there in the mud, digging trenches and hauling tarps. At the same time, this is top secret shit, even on the outskirts. Even just getting glimpses of something could be significant. So it is kind of funny that a lot of that is left to some of the grunt work of, the troops, the soldiers on the ground, unranked. Fascinating thought that. And what an interesting thing that people are telling stories about Mel's Hole. Like, yeah, we were fucking guarding it. Yeah, and maybe they don't even know about Art Bell. They don't even know about the legend. It was just a weird thing, like John Mark said, that they were hired or in charge of guarding. Go ahead, Lau.
I was going to say back to the social drinking. That was some of my favorite times were at the bar and drinking with people like that, and like at the Legion and talking to people, that were served, and they had crazy stories, ex-cops with just the craziest stories. I think I talked about one of them, about the guy that lost his hand in the door. That was a freaky one. The guy chased, he had a weird call, knocked on the door apparently, and then some just vicious, he was going up the stairwell, something vicious and hairy just came down the stairwell. This is the police officer. He's on duty and he's checking out this house, and all of a sudden he hears a slam, and there's blood all over the door, and it's wintertime. There's blood trail that goes out away from the porch, out in the streets and through the woods, and it just disappeared. You know what I mean? But there's blood drops literally through there. And as they went back to secure the house, there's a hand underneath this table right at the door.
That.
Yeah. It's a crazy story, man. And he swears up and down it was true. He's an old retired cop.
Yeah, you can imagine those kinds of jobs. I mean, think about just the random shit they would see in one single day, but over an entire career.
Yeah, well, but in the rational world, you would expect somebody's going to the fucking hospital because they're going to die.
Right.
Nobody went to the hospital that night. You know what I mean? It's just a freaky thing.
Yeah. Carrie writes, "Howdy. I just found your show while searching about the dark web, and I was really enjoying listening to your rundown of the Silk Road. I was, however, surprised that red rooms didn't come up in your discussion. Since you did all that research, I'm guessing you have heard of them, so I'm wondering what your thoughts are." Thanks, Carrie. Yeah, I actually had that in my notes to bring up. We did go long. It was a very wordy podcast, and so maybe I just decided to move on without it. But it was for anyone that doesn't know, the idea is simply, I suppose, the idea of a real life hostel scenario where for a price you can pay to either take part in. I think mostly the idea is to witness a brutal, maybe a rape, but definitely a murder in live and in the flesh. And as to whether or not those are real, there really isn't much evidence pointing to that, other than I think it's probably one of those things that maybe it's happened. It probably has happened, but the occurrence of them has been blown out of proportion, or some of the stories have been exaggerated. But not that long ago, I think it was just a couple years ago, in the Netherlands, there were a handful of these shipping containers. I don't know if we talked about this on the show, but there was a handful of these shipping containers that were discovered, and they were equipped with, well, first of all, they were soundproofed, completely soundproofed, but they were equipped with high-tech video equipment everywhere. And in the middle of them were these big weighted down dental chairs with handcuffs all over them. They're basically handcuffs and stations all over these things to be chained up.
I think we did talk about that, and I think it turns out that they were all built out, but nothing had ever happened there. They had never done anything with them.
Yeah, I don't know if they found any blood or DNA on them. It didn't say anything in the story.
Yeah.
But
I think that they had built them, but nothing had ever happened in those containers.
Yeah.
That's what I remember hearing.
Well, they had all sorts of torture devices, pruning shears and old dental equipment and shit that would snap your jaw back, like cranks, like shit that was specifically made for only one reason, that was to torture. And cameras all focused on where these people would be chained up. And yeah, it's impossible to know if these were red rooms, if you will. But it's interesting how those were intercepted, because it was sort of like one of these dark web type communication apps that the feds had cracked down on, and they intercepted this shipment between point A and point B. Point A was point A, they were both criminals. The cops, like it wasn't like entrapment, or it wasn't like a setup. It wasn't a sting. They just had intercepted a conversation between two legitimate criminals, one of them trying to purchase these setups to do whatever they were going to do with them. It seems pretty clear that they were going to use these to do what they were built for. Like, it wasn't like movie props. It wasn't a haunted house situation. It was pretty clear that they were going to be used. But it seems like, judging from the people, if I remember right, judging from the people that were busted for moving these containers I think they were more like mafia. So whether or not they were going to do this as some sort of paid entertainment, they were going to torture people, and they were going to kill people, and they were going to film it. For whatever reason, that shit's been going on since the dawn of violence. So,
well, dude, those videos that were going around on Facebook between Al Qaeda beheadings and drug tail, Mexican cartel, fucking
cartels,
like
fucked up stuff. Mm-hmm.
Holy shit, dude!
Yeah, don't go watching any of that stuff, son.
Don't, kids, don't do it.
You can't unsee it. That's become a cliche, but it's so true.
Yeah,
you can't.
When we were kids, we used to jerk around with those like faces of death, or death faces.
Yeah. Some are real and some aren't, but
that shit was real. I mean, and it was going around like on Facebook. Of these like literally decapitations and murders. So it doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, if that shit's real.
Oh, no. Well, like we were talking about a few episodes ago, someone brought up the notion that millennials love eating ass. And one theory was because licking pussy and sucking titties just isn't as interesting, because they were born in a world where they could dial up any kind of porn you wanted. You gotta spice it up a little bit. I'm gonna lick the part that shits, because that's dirty and that's nasty. That's next level. I don't think it's a terrible hypothesis. Who knows the explanation behind it? But in the same way,
if that's even real, right?
Seeing those, if that's even an actual phenomenon, it seems like. I keep seeing like memes and posts from women saying, there's a lot of you guys out there talking about eating ass that don't seem to be wanting to eat much ass when push comes to shove. It's like, ain't backing it up in the bedroom, son. If you're going to be talking licking ass, you got to lick ass, because, false advertisement and whatnot. But at on that same wavelength, maybe some of these people that were born into the world where they could see just about any horrible thing, a real video of something happening. I mean, that next level, if they want to feed that shock part of the brain, if that's what they get off on, then it would have to be some sort of evolution. I mean, what's left at that point but being in the real, like in the room watching it happen? And then the next step, of course, would be just doing it, which is how a lot of psychopaths evolve,
Well, think of the thought of little Ron Evans at 12 years old having an iPhone and be able to get on the web.
I'm so glad I didn't.
It's so.
I don't want to know. I was a creep. I was. I don't know what I would have done. I don't know how I would have used that, because I was such a fucking weirdo loser. I didn't know how to talk to girls. I didn't know how to talk to anybody. So I could see.
I'm so glad you are so different.
Huh?
I'm so glad you've changed so much.
When you use that tone, motherfucker. You're so different. But I think part of, like, I may have been on the road to being an incel. I certainly was when I was younger. But at some point, I was like, I got to get out there. I got to stop being afraid to talk to people. I got to stop just wishing and, lingering in the shadows and being a wallflower and hanging around, just being the weirdo in the back that everyone's like, what's that guy? Why is he even here? He's not talking to anybody. And so that it pushed me out to get over some of those anxieties and realize, oh, this isn't that hard to talk to people. And it seems like people kind of like me. And you start to develop a personality. If I didn't have to do that, if I had something that was at least feeding some part of my brain that made me think I was experiencing experiences, who knows? I don't know. I say it all the time. I'm just so glad I was born where I was coming of age before all of this shit was at my fingertips, because I think I just would have gotten too lost into it, I was glad that it came to me when it did.
My point is like a lot of kids like 12 years old have iPhones. Like their parents have given them phones, it's just have that accessibility, at that age. You can trust your kid.
Who knows
as much
what
as
they're into, man.
But I tell you what, once that kid is with their buddies that already been through all that shit and seen all those sites, they're going to show them, and they're going to be exposed to it. It blew
there's
my
no
mind.
hiding it. There's no way around it.
Was the same way. When her kids were way younger, I personally think of underage, like in junior high, middle school, she was supplying them with smartphones, and it's like, why would you,
She's the dealer, the smartphone dealer, supplying the kids.
Have fun, kids, experiencing all the things that make life wonderful and horrible.
I'm with you, Ron. I'm glad that I was of probably one of the last generations that grew up before the internet. So we experienced what life was like before that happened. Yeah, and then completely. After it happened, and then as it was happening at an age, to where we were kind of still kind of oh, this is a new thing. We can get into, you know what I mean? So it wasn't like this total culture shock, and we were developing with the technology. Totally unique experience, I think.
Yeah, I was married before streaming video was a thing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
To have anything you could possibly imagine at those young and impressionable ages. Who knows? We'll see. I suppose we should be seeing now. Yeah. It's funny how people still call younger people millennials, but millennials are Chris, aren't you a millennial? Are millennials turning 40 now?
There's a big range.
There's something called a zillennial. It's like anyone born in the early 80s fits into a weird specific, because we still got the internet. I still had the internet when I was in high school, just barely.
Yeah.
But I didn't have it. I don't know. Yeah. So I fit I'm not a millennial. There's something right before it's a super small group, zillennial or something like that.
Oh, is that Generation Z?
Yeah, it's right in the middle.
Because the rest of us are X, Generation X, and then
I think I'm right. I think I'm right between
all
X
forgotten.
and.
Don't remind them.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because we sound like grandpas, because we could sit there and say that our porn came in magazine form with glossy paper.
Yeah, it feels like well, it's like looking back at our grandparents and especially their parents.
Well, we are all technically old enough to be grandparents, but
they knew. Well, yeah, my grandparents were my age when they were half raising me, but when. It's like when you heard the stories about, I remember before radio was a thing. I remember before TV was a thing. We all have something like that. And it does change everything. It changes everything. And you do remember.
I remember before CDs were a thing.
See, to me, I got into CDs so late that to me, CDs seem like a 6-month fad. Now, where I really had fun with CDs was burning them, burning my own compilations or burning my own band's stuff. That was what was neat about CDs. But I feel like I blinked my eyes and no one cared about CDs anymore. But again, it's because I got into them late.
I remember back when there were laser discs. I remember them.
I still, where you still run into laser discs is in the record
silver platters
at the antique mall when
just
some old fuck didn't know the difference.
That's funny.
It'd be like Die Hard on the soundtrack. Oh, it's the laser disc. Collector's market there. There's a lot of people that still collect those. They were ahead of their time. They were the first ones to put special features on there. You know, they were the first ones. A lot of the early DVD commentaries were actually taken off of the laser discs because
when you were talking about Star Wars earlier, I was going to say I had a friend that had Star Wars on Laserdisc back in the day.
Yeah,
I was going to say for the like a handful of times that I've seen porn, like at an early age, I think like the fifth or fourth time I've actually seen porn was at a buddy of mine's girlfriend's house, and we were just kids, and her parents had a laser disc, and we watched a porn, laser disc porn.
Oh shit, son!
So, like
crystal clarity. That could be the best or worst thing to happen, depending on any particular feature. They didn't really get good with porn lighting until the late 80s. Anything pre-mid 1980s, the lighting just was an afterthought. And that may sound like a funny complaint, but there's a certain thing that happens to the human form when it's not flatteringly lit. It's an entire art to light somebody in a flattering manner. And if you don't give a shit about it...
Let me just pull up my phone wallpaper backdrop of Ron in the tub, Exhibit A.
Now, see, if the camera was just a little bit ready and say that I wasn't caught off guard and in the half somersault position.
Maybe a little bit lower to make you look more dominant.
Yeah, do anything to make me look more dominant. I need it. We should get moving on. Got a few more gems here. This is from Devin. It says, hey guys, loving the show. Just got turned on by you. ... Let me rephrase. No, you were on the right track to begin with, my friend. Goes on to say, it was just introduced to you guys by my girlfriend's dad, who listens to the show. Speaking of generational. By the way, shout out to Big Mikey, he says. Anyway, I wondered if you guys have talked about the lizard people in any of your older shows. I'm highly doubtful they exist, but honestly, sometimes the thought of lizards running the show makes more sense than the actual truth. Boy, isn't that well said? I don't know. I don't think we ever did any kind of like soup de jour episode, but the lizard people definitely came up frequently or from time to time on Tales from the Space Pod. I don't buy it. I get why people do, and I think part of it might have to do with what you maybe semi-jokingly said was it does sometimes feel like there are just some of those among us with a complete different agenda and a complete different ability to succeed in that agenda. And sometimes it does feel like, why are the rest of us just kind of like in a little ant colony, and then there's this tiny group of people that are just getting everything done? So I see why. I mean, it does cater to the 1%er, I suppose, idea of things, the trickle-down effect, if you will, the elite. All of that caters into the notion of lizard people. And I remember when the internet was new, going back to this, we started seeing more and more videos pop up. It was getting easier to fake videos. So we started seeing all sorts of like lizard tongues popping out behind podiums of,
eyelids closing,
footage of a Kennedy interview and shit like that. And some were better than others, but it seems like all that kind of died off and went away. But the theories prevail. They still continue, and I just don't. I don't know. Would I be surprised that there are a group of lizards running the show? I think I say it all the time. I don't think anything would surprise me. Not shock me. It might surprise me, but nothing would really shock me because nothing really makes sense when you break it down. And yet it does in explainable ways, I suppose. I mean, is it that crazy to think that there are just a small group of men that have figured out a way to be rich and powerful and they don't want to let go of it? So they, with their riches and with their power, have kept that system intact. That's a lot of the theory with lizard people, is that they're running the show. Well, there are a small group of exclusive individuals running the show. And the idea of a shadow government is not crazy to me. I do believe that there's a shadow government. I don't know how deep that conspiracy goes. I think it's as simple as people like Jeffrey Epstein, who have power and money and maybe a videotape of you cornholing a 12-year-old. That is power like we can't possibly understand. So he's not a shadow government, but he's somebody who had a lot of politicians in his pocket. That's what I think of when I think of something like this. I don't even know if it's an organized coalition. It's just that everyone is bought and paid for one way or the other. Maybe it's cash across the table. Maybe it's a videotape that you don't want released. Everybody, it's a pay-to-play type system. So I'm not shocked that these kinds of theories, continue. But I personally don't buy the idea that there are lizard people among us. Quickly around the table, what do you guys think?
No. I mean, it'd be cool. I think. No.
You think it'd be cool?
Well, there's
It would explain a lot. That'd be one
There's
way of
stories.
explaining a lot.
and it goes back to like the travel to the center of the universe, where like there's a tectonical plate where there's people could live on, in underground.
I saw the tectonical plates open for.
There was a story that we talked.
Lips.
I choked. I was trying to think of the techno group that just quit. Daft Punk. Go ahead, Lyle. Sorry.
Daft Punk.
It was an underground base, and like underneath these levels, this guy brought out notes, made it public, and it was basically like there was a lineage of I want to say a dozen different types of aliens that had made pacts with our government, and they were in these underground bases doing whatnot. They traded
was that
technology.
Phil something?
I'm trying to remember the name.
We did
of
a
the
show
base.
on that guy.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. But I'm trying to remember the name of the base, and I can't. It's like blowing my head.
We did
But
do a
like,
whole episode. If you're a subscriber, a Patreon subscriber at patreon.com/Tales from the Space Pod, you do have access to our archives. You could find that. I know his name is Phil, but yeah, it was an interesting story from a kooky dude.
Well, in his story, he was basically describing there was a lizard type alien that was there. So like he had documentations, pictures of the way they acted, descriptions.
He had the documents.
He had all the
We have the documents.
and
Listen to me, Joe Rogan.
this particular guy apparently went down to these lower chambers.
Phil Schneider.
It was a Schneider.
Yeah.
He went down into these chambers, and he had backup. There was guards there that were had weapons, and there was an all-out brawl. And they had like their laser weapons or whatever. And I think it like blew off his hand.
Yeah, he's got a fucked up finger.
Oh, his hand's all fucked up. And then like in his stomach, he's got a bullet shot, or like a laser shot or whatever. And one of them took his own life by saving him. I guess he grabbed him, threw him into the
Sounds to
elevator.
me like somebody who fucked up playing with M80s and wanted to make a cool story to cover it up.
The guy died.
Could have done worse.
Well, it was his job. He had the credentials, to have those documents, John Mark.
Lyle, it sounds like you're kind of leaning toward maybe you do believe the possibility of lizard people. Is that correct?
Men. Men.
It's hard to tell what's all out there. You don't know.
I do not think that there are lizard people out there is my answer.
Yeah. Well, I want to reiterate. I don't believe there are, but I am not as far away from where Lyle's headed either, because I too don't know what's all out there, and I never
claim to know the truth.
But there's one truth to our origin story, and there are so many versions, and none of them are not strange. And so whatever you believe, that you're believing something kind of fucking crazy. Yeah. And even if there is one origin story, that doesn't mean that something didn't happen along the way. This idea of aliens, Bob Lazar even talked about this to some degree, that the idea of aliens and alien civilization coming down from space and seeding, as they called it, our DNA, domesticating us like we did the wolf. Somehow, if you look at a schnauzer, somewhere in there is wolf DNA. We did that to them.
Yeah.
Who's to say that an alien race couldn't do that to us? Again, Does that sound crazy? Kinda, but it also sounds
Ron,
like.
have you ever watched a movie called 2001?
I have heard of it. Maybe I'll check that out.
Well, I mean, it goes back, I mean, thousands and thousands of years. If you think about the Egyptians now, like making the pyramids and like what do they call it? The something battery. It's basically like orange juice and copper in a pot, in a clay pot.
Well, they had batteries.
Which
they had electricity back in the day.
Well, it pushes 12 volts. I mean, with the 12 volt
right
battery.
It's the seemingly light switch of exiting the dark ages into the new era that I think has us tripped up. But at the same time,
I'm talking about evolution and how we came from monkeys running around swinging and beating each other up with fucking rocks and smashing each other's heads into being able, be like flying kites and discovering electricity
in a relatively short amount of time. Yeah. Listen, again, this is why these theories prevail, and who the fuck knows? They're interesting to talk about. And then you have interesting stories like Phil Snyder's, and I'm trying to think of the other Hollow Earth guy. I think we had him on the show. Anyway, let's move on. So thanks for that email, Devin. Bit of a mixed bag there for you. Now, this one, the other thing I was thinking, I guess I only got one more short one, so I'll continue with this. This, for some reason, a lot of these people tend to be Mandela effect people. Devin, write back and let me know if you're a Mandela effect person. I don't know why, but I tend to see a ton of people. I follow these, the Mandela effect group on Facebook. I'm sorry. I know a lot of you listening probably buy into the Mandela effect, and there are some interesting things, but some of the shit, man, like there'll be one or two thought-provoking posts on that Facebook group, and then the rest is just like, well, in my timeline, it was sex in the city, not sex and the city. Like, no, your brain just got it wrong. Or what often happens is, a few
It's always been sex and the city.
It's always been sex and the city, but they won't accept that. They're like, in your timeline. I love how many times that will be the response. In your timeline, winky face.
It's great how you can do that now, right?
It's great how you can just explain away everything.
In your reality.
But, it's like, I think a lot of times somebody who has like a blog or somebody who makes posters or stickers, someone gets it wrong. And then 1,000 people see that wrong version, and then they perpetuate that. That's so easy to do in this modern age. And then so maybe you did actually see it in one wrong form, and, or maybe somebody in a forum said it one way and that's stuck in your head. Our memories are provably shite. Provably. Mm-hmm. Our brains are amazing, but they are also very, very fallible. And, my question is, why, if this is supposedly caused by satanic scientists at CERN opening up other parallel universes, or whatever the fucking theory behind this stuff is, it's tied to that. Why are people only bickering about logos and movie titles? It's like, wouldn't there be things like, wait a minute, Snargard was called Florida in my timeline, or the first president of the United States wasn't Kyle Anderson. Why is it's always pop culture junk? Because that's all it is. That's just what we remember.
That's all it is.
Nobody remembered. It's like, shouldn't it be like huge, important things on all parts of life? But it never is. It's just always like, wait a minute, no, I found a drawing of the Karate Kid's headband, and it was the rising sun. Which, by the way, I saw another thing come up in that the Karate Kid headband confuses a lot of people, and that's an easy one to explain, because when you think of a Japanese type logo, it's the rising sun, more often than not. But that wasn't the Miyagi Dojo logo. And Mr. Miyagi, didn't he fight in World War II for the U.S.?
I believe
he wouldn't.
In the story, he did. I think I don't know if. Yeah.
Why would he have used the enemy's flag as his dojo? Like, none of that makes sense. But this is so often the case where you can just start extrapolating it out. And what was one I just saw? This one drove me crazy because this one is so easy to fucking research, but it's something that I knew immediately because I'm such an Apollo 13 nerd. So people were like, and again, it's just movie bullshit. Someone was like, okay, wait a minute, guys. I could have sworn that in my in my timeline, the original line was, and I've heard it. I thought it was Houston, we have a problem. But going back and looking, it says Houston, we've had a problem. And they're like, is this residue? That's what they call it when you can see both versions. No, you fucking idiots.
Our brains are developed like a hard drive, like on a computer. It takes in a lot of data and it shits it back out. And when you get so much shit in it, it's called defragmentation. So like with your
these people need a lot of defragging. They need to be fragged up the ass.
And it sits everything in its proper place. Well, sometimes when you're defragging our human brains, I believe that they just get fucked up.
Yeah.
Those memories get fucked up and they're not the same.
Yeah. And we all know this, but there's some people that once they go down this kind of rabbit hole, then their pride gets involved and then they can't admit that they've been blowing each other's minds with all this bullshit. But the Apollo 13 is easily explained, and it was explained by Ron Howard himself, the director of Apollo 13. It's like, well, why did you change the very well-known, statement that Jim actually said, which was, Houston, we've had a problem. He said he wanted to change it to Houston, we have a problem, because that was more dramatic and more immediate. And it's like, it's an ongoing thing. It's not semantics. He was right. It is a more immediate, and that's the line that everyone remembers, not the original one. So it's just pop culture bullshit and gobbledygook along the lines of what Lyle was just talking about. And I'm sorry, it's just, the rest is just bad memories mixed again with the ego of not being able to accept when you are just wrong.
It's iconic, is like, using that analogy of a hard drive. It is how our brains work. Yeah. Every day.
They say that dreaming is basically us defragging our all the shit in our brain.
Exactly, because we pick up everything. We pick up everything, even though you don't even know it. You pick up everything. What was you were driving through town and you stopped at like 3rd Street, the car beside you. What color was it? It was red. You might know that because
our brains are so good at just filtering out so much data that we don't need to know to survive.
But we're also susceptible. So a lot of these people would never even have had this quote unquote Mandela effect realization if someone else didn't point it out to them. And once it's pointed out to, they're like, oh, well, that's just the power of suggestion mixed with you don't really remember it clearly, mixed with we get things wrong. We quote movies wrong. That's a whole, I've given you guys quizzes on movie quotes. They're usually famously misquoted movies. The misquotes.
Excuse me while I kiss this guy.
Those are the misheard lyrics, which we should play again in the not too distant future. But the misquoted lyrics usually are the ones that get remembered. And often they come from parody. Like that's another thing that the Mandela effect people don't seem to take into account is, 50 years of Mad Magazine and and the like, Mad TV and Saturday Night Live and all this other bullshit that has snuck in there, not to mention knockoff brands that exist. So they'll find something that's like, I found some residue. It says Sex in the City. It's like, no, that's a lube brand who is selling something very close and getting away with it due to parody law. And it's very smart. But that's not residue of a parallel universe. I'm sorry, it just isn't. And finally, Mark asked, if you guys could travel to one place, where would it be and why? Let's keep it somewhere on planet Earth. All right, quickly, let's go around the horn. I'll give you guys a second to think. The first destination that's always on the top of my head is Ireland. Even before I found out that I was a huge part of my DNA, well, maybe not my DNA, but a huge part of my lineage is Irish. It's all Irish and Welsh and a little bit of Scots-Irish in there, which apparently is Canadian. I'm confused by maybe I should look that up. But so I've just been captivated. It's I think it's a very popular destination. There's some mystique of the misty green Emerald Isle, and very interesting history, lots of mythology surrounding it, ancient buildings, ancient stonework and castles, things like Stonehenge. Stonehenge is not on the island of Ireland, of course, but there are things like that, just ancient ruins. So yeah, I would love to take a week long trip to take my time, or maybe 2 weeks backpacking around in Ireland. Chris, what about you?
Man, the place, if I could just go, I would love to go see the pyramids.
Ooh,
I don't think I'll ever do it in real life. I just don't see it happening. I'm going to travel more, and I'm excited about it. I just don't see
we're gonna travel together. Yeah, didn't we talk about this? Remember 3 years ago we were gonna go to New York.
Yeah.
That was amazing. I don't even remember. That's how much fun we had.
What a blur!
Yeah, more traveling this year is definitely on my list.
What was that hotel we stayed at? Hotel Cecil, New York.
Oh boy, I wasn't a fan of the pool. Too tough to get into.
It had a weird taste to it.
Oh, God.
Oh, we're soulless creatures. Yeah, the pyramids are good, but I'm always a little scared. But everyone I know that have gone to see them, they say the same thing. It's like, we were scared too, but it was fine. It was like, it's you just be smart, and you just go where you're supposed to go, and don't go where you're not supposed to go, and then you get your ass home. But Lyle, what about you?
Oh, mine's easy. Iceland. Iceland is a beautiful country. There's certain times of the year where it's light more than like a few days of light.
Mm-hmm.
They have beautiful waterfalls. There's these cut sections of these just crystal blue rivers that cut these stalagmite kind of arched ups. But the most cool thing about the place is that they have a black beach, and the sand's completely black. And it's photographers go there, and just I've that's what I've seen. I've seen blogs and a lot of photographers that's been there, and it's just a place I'd love to go see. And take a drone. Drone laws are open there. You can take your drone and fly it around no matter what. You don't have to get hassled.
Yeah,
it's a fucking cool place.
Nice. John Mark, I feel like I know.
Anybody have any guesses?
But
I
don't know. I don't speak Norway, but
I'm gonna say
yeah, no, I've been to a lot of different countries.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them I'd like to revisit. There's a few that I haven't been to that I would like to go to, but I think ultimately right now, I would like to go to Norway.
Would you? Do you ever feel like going back to visit Bangladesh? For old time's sake, or are you? Have you done it?
No, I have contemplated that, but so I have a friend that was a friend of ours when we were living in Bangladesh, who was like our kind of like catty corner neighbor, right? And he was a good friend of ours, and he sent me some pictures of our neighborhood that we used to live in,
mm-hmm.
and it's completely unrecognizable.
In a good way?
No. Like the whole area, like he had to kind of map out. He sent me some aerial shots of it, and he was like, he's like outlined some areas in different colors. He's like, this area is where the big soccer field with the gas station was, and this area over here is, and everything is just like this massive high rises. Like as far as the eye can see, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, this is where the rice fields were, and blah blah blah, and it's just like, what the fuck, you know what I mean? So it just looks like total chaos.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I don't know if I could handle that.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be that'd be surreal. It's surreal to look out my window right now and see that happening across the road, and it's not on that kind of level. Well, thank you so much for the emails, radarstationart@gmail.com. We would love to do these shows more often. We'd love answering you guys' questions. You always ask good ones, and it often leads to 10, 15 minutes of discussion. And I would love for that to become a bigger part of the show. It's less research for us and more interactivity with you all. So it's win-win. RadarStationArt@gmail.com. I'm going to take a quick pit stop, and then I'm going to be ready to lose at some weird trivia.
But
All right, motherfuckers. Well, let's see here. So I believe we are filling our last slot of our bizarre, strange trivia prize.
Oh, you're right.
Floundering here. Hold on. Sorry, I had it pulled up. Oh, it was gone.
I was stuck on slot.
Mm-hmm. You usually are.
That's not.
Let's see. So we currently have Ben and TJ in the winner slots. And tonight, who will be joining them? Let me tell you. John Mark, you're playing for Katie. Now, Katie actually reached out and explained to me how to pronounce her last name. I think I said Sergeev.
Mm-hmm.
And she eloquently explained how to pronounce it, and I can't remember what the fuck she said. I think it was Sergeev.
Isn't that what it was?
I think it's Sergeev. So Sergeev, thank you very much, Katie. Sergeev, we're gonna move on here. John Mark is playing
That'd
for
be
Katie.
amazing
So
if she corrected you and you got it wrong again.
I know, I'm sure I did.
Fair. Names
I'm
are tough.
sure I did.
It's like the Mandela effect.
Yeah.
You just had to defrag
but-
a little.
The good news is John Mark is playing for you. So hey, Ronster, you're playing for Jeff Hall.
see
On
how
the
that
other
goes.
hand.
Jeff Hall.
Uh-huh.
Well, Jeff, get
Godspeed,
ready to
Jeff.
haul ass to the losers corner because my bags are packed.
And Lyle will be playing for our beloved Cynthia Peterson.
all right.
Okay.
right, guys.
Yeah, anything could go with Cynthia.
It was a fun
Or
one.
Lyle playing for you. He wins more than I do, but no one wins as much as John Mark. So let's see if something different is in the cards tonight. I feel
All
the
right,
wind
well.
in the air. I already mentioned it earlier. Might be allergies.
All right, y'all ready for this? Cool.
Cool. Cool period.
Go big.
Anytime the word cool is said flatly with a clear period at the end of it, I always feel
Cool.
so insulted.
Cool.
Cool. You're cool. All right.
All right, guys, let's start this with some weird trivia. A group of zebras is called, is it A loom? B,
Fruit
A
of the loom
dazzle.
of zebra.
Or is it B, a dazzle? I use my hands and sparkly.
Dazzle of zebras. I got to say them all out loud. I'm sorry.
Is it C, stripers?
I don't think I need to say that one out loud.
No, do it.
Hey, stripers. Stripers plural. As stripers of zebra.
Yeah. A group of zebras is called a stripers. Or is it D? Is it D?
To hell with the devil.
No.
There's some for you striper fans out there. All
Or is
two of
it
you.
D, a flex?
Mm.
Again,
Oh.
a loom, a dazzle, a striper, or a flex?
The plural is silent, and then it ain't.
People ask
Striper.
me why I don't do this professionally, and I don't know why. Sometimes I don't.
You get that
do
question.
this professionally. What the fuck are you talking about?
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
You've been doing
Okay,
it for 10
John Mark.
fucking years.
And we get
Oh,
like
shit.
$60 a month.
Uh-huh.
I think that's
Yeah.
down to 38.
John Mark, you're gonna go first, buddy.
Okay, so I know that I've heard this fact at some point before, and I know I've heard what a group of zebras is called. None of these is jumping out as the totally correct name, but
Put you down.
Stripers sounds wrong. I do remember a striper.
No, I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with dazzle. I'm gonna go with the dazzle.
A
Dazzle.
dazzle
Yeah,
of
a dazzle of zebras.
zebras.
Yeah, because that's what I'd want it to be.
How did we get a zebra? Does anyone know off the top of their head how we got to a zebra? Like, is that
They're
a
just
pairing
there.
of two?
No, it's just they're
They're
there.
just a thing. They're neat animals. We love zebras. Well, I'm tempted to go with John Mark, but I can't in good conscience piggyback him right off the bat. So I'm going to go, let's see. Yeah, fuck it. I'm going to go with the Dazzle.
Yeah, you can do it.
Hey,
Yeah.
hey.
Because that was
Stripe
actually,
horses
that's
of the
actually
feather
kind of,
flock together.
well, that's kind of a, I think I would have gone with that even if John Mark chose a different one. Dazzle. Oh, I might be talking myself out of it. Fuck it. I'm sticking with it. I'm going with Dazzle.
That's my fucking favorite.
Wait, I was going to choose it? Well, then I got to go the other way.
That's what I was gonna say,
Must be
guys.
right.
I'm gonna say it anyway.
For some reason, I don't know why. It seems like Loom is sticking out in my head, so we're gonna go with Loom.
Yeah, I almost went with the
Right.
Loom. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm gonna be. I will
Those
enjoy
goddamn
losing
zebras
to Stripers.
do like to kind of loom over you, don't they?
I don't know. It's just it seems like Africa. It seems like zebras and something about looms. So
A
Go
wild
with it.
voice looms in the night,
Mhm.
like a pack of stripers.
Striper.
Striper,
Ready?
hurry, boy! There's stripers ink for you. It's gonna take a loom of zebras to drag me away. It all works.
Oh my god. I'm not gonna
Okay.
let the Stripers one down. Okay. Man, all right. This one may be an easy one for you. I was shocked to learn this fact, so I had to turn it into a question naturally.
Okay.
This famous person once spent 2 years in federal prison for selling 1.4 pounds of cocaine to an undercover officer.
I
Who
do
was
bet I
it?
know this.
Who spent 2 years in federal prison for selling 1.4 pounds of coke to an undercover cop? Was it A, Sean Penn?
Hmm.
Was it B, Ted Nugent?
Well, the Nuge.
Was it C, Jeff Foxworthy? You might be a redneck if oh shit.
I might be a red butt for the rest of my life. Oh dear.
Would you say?
You have to really be careful pronouncing his last name. No, it's Foxworthy. Foxworthy.
Oh my god, red butt. No. Good.
No scruples.
Or was it D, Tim Allen?
Mm.
One more time. One of these guys actually went to jail for 2 years for selling 1.4 pounds of coke to an undercover cop. Sean Penn, Ted Nuge, Jeff Foxworthy, or Tim Allen? Red
Mhm,
butt.
mhm.
Okay, John Mark.
Well, I know that Tim Allen did have some sort of cocaine
Yeah, there was
related
some
complications, but I don't
skirmish.
know if that was exactly this. But I'm going to go with Tim Allen just because I don't. Tim Allen.
Mhm.
Okay.
Oh,
Ronster, what are you going to go with?
I too am going to go with Tim Allen.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. Okay.
Here I said I
Wow.
wasn't going to piggyback off
Well,
John Mark Twain.
yeah. Fun fact: the notion that Ted Nugent's actually he was clean and sober his
Yeah, he
entire
didn't
time.
do drugs.
Never ever did.
He said his only vice was pussy.
He said that's what he says, anyways.
I
Okay.
believe it. He doesn't seem fun or cool. I mean, I
It doesn't
get,
seem fun or
I get-
cool.
well, let's just move on. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
say.
no, that
Uh,
tracks.
Well, I could see during the '80s, especially like the late '80s, is Sean Penn and his debacle of a lot of shit.
He was in
And
trouble
he
a
was-
lot.
He was
Yeah.
spending drugs, a lot of trouble, and disappeared. He disappeared for a while, and then kind of got brought back into the limelight. So
Well, his
I'm
name does include Penn.
well,
Mm-hmm.
as in Penn.
Before he went to the pen, he was Sean Thompson.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I don't know why I picked your last name, Lyle.
I don't know either.
So you going with Sean Penn?
I'm going with Sean Penn.
Okay.
All right. Question 3 is a listener submitted question, so it's going to be worth 2 points. Shout out to my main girl TJ for sending me this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
That
A
was good.
Californian doctor who had to make a virtual court appearance for a traffic violation might have left his Zoom meeting with more woes than he started it with, because in the background of his court hearing, while he was having a Zoom meeting, the judge saw this. Was it A, that he was driving a car while Zooming and also texting on a second phone?
Busy man.
I can multitask. I love it when people say that. Yeah, who can't?
What?
Doesn't mean you won't kill somebody.
Was he a lawyer? Is that what you said? Or what was his particular
He was a doctor.
doctor? Okay.
He was in a Zoom meeting for a traffic infraction.
Mhm.
I can get my dick sucked and save a heart transplant. Bitch, I
Was
can
it-
drive with... Oh, good.
Was it B, he was performing surgery on a patient while he was having his court mandated Zoom meeting?
You hate to see it.
Was it C, he had a white powdery substance visible around his nose during his court hearing?
Dr. Feelgood.
Or was it
Indeed.
D, he was caught talking shit about the judge's looks and weight because he thought he had muted himself?
Oh,
That
boy.
fucking ass motherfucker.
One of these
Zoom-
things
Zoom era.
One of these things
Yeah.
One of these things actually happened,
Okay.
and there may be some action behind it too. Something may come of it. Again,
Okay.
was that he was driving his car while Zooming and also texting on a second phone? Was it B, he was performing surgery on a patient while he had his meeting? Was it C, he had a white powdery substance visible around his nose? Or was it D, he was caught talking shit about the judge's looks and weight because he thought he had muted himself? Which one is it, John Mark?
So what was the original question? He just got in trouble for this, or what was the deal?
He may be in trouble.
Maybe in trouble for doing one of these things.
2 points. 2 points, remember.
Yeah, ding, 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 ding. I don't know. These all sound fairly plausible, honestly. I'm gonna go with. Did you say when this happened?
This happened. I mean, this happened during COVID.
Recently.
It
I'm gonna
was a
go with.
Zoom.
I'm gonna go with talking shit.
Mm,
Talking
talking
shit
shit.
one.
I was torn between that and having mysterious white powder on his nose.
Yeah, in keeping with the cocaine theme.
I think both of those would qualify for a may be in trouble scenario. So just to break the pattern, I'm going to go with white powder. Although it did occur to me that a great moving forward system would just be answering everything the way that John Mark did and then just leaving it down to the tiebreaker. I'm not going to do that, but I would win more.
Yeah.
At least then
Your
it
average would go up.
would go way up. Uh-huh.
Okay, Lyle.
So let me tell you, time is money, right? So everything you're
Time
doing,
is money, friend.
you know, you're honestly wasting time, if you're sitting there at home doing a mandatory thing when you could be at the office actually doing something and making money and being more proficient with your time. No, this is in general. This is like in life. This is a life lesson, kids. I'm going to say he was doing surgery and probably had one of his assistants, hold up his little Zoom phone or maybe a laptop while he was doing surgery.
Well,
right.
they probably talk while they do surgery, right? I mean, if it's something, he didn't
You
say
talk
what kind
together.
of surgery.
Yeah.
They're not all crazy. Like, oh my God, hold this. Everyone be quiet while I remove the aorta. They're not all that.
It's
It
surgery.
could just be like fixing a fucking, who knows? Something
up
that they
joint.
could be talking. Well, yeah, that's not a bad analyze.
Okay. Question 4. Last week in Germany, an armed robber held up a bank and got away with it. Now they have footage of all this, but they were asking everyone to describe the man, like everyone that was there. And he was described as a man in his 20s. He had a pistol, but witnesses surprisingly couldn't recall much more about anything else because they were so incredibly distracted by this? What distracted them about the man so much that they had a hard time remembering any other details?
Okay.
Was it A, his awful, colorful necktie?
That can be a distraction.
Was it B, the overpowering smell of weed he brought in with him?
In this day and age, that's everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Was it C, his collection of adult toys that he had tied to his waist like a sex utility belt?
That's the new Batman. Watch out.
I'm coming.
Yeah, coming with you out of Gotham.
Or was it D, the man's third nipple, which was visible?
The mother of all distractors. Mm-hmm.
John
Okay.
Mark, do you need a recap, or are you have an answer for me?
Well, being somebody that used to work at an adult bookstore,
I wasn't
I'm
going to
also-
bring it up.
I'm also a sucker for a good sex toy utility belt. So let's go with that one.
All right, fair enough. Ronster.
Yeah, I'm leaning into the third nip myself.
Dude,
Who
man.
doesn't?
I think that it's a legitimate thing, and I've seen it. And once you see it, you don't notice the other two as much.
When you see
That's
it,
how distracting it is. Got to be something mighty distracting to distract you from tits. only more tit can distract you from tits, and that's when you grow up.
Okay.
I feel with COVID being rampant for the last 2 years that, and movies being so sparse that people have gone out of their way to maybe blend in with movies. And I know that like there's a new hero movie coming out. What was it, Suicide Squad? So like maybe this guy decided he wanted to be Dildo Man and do some dastardly deeds. If you know what I'm saying.
Dildo Man does the dastardly deeds. I like it. I'd watch.
that's some alliteration right
Watch
there.
a $200 chair.
That's an evil villain. Doing dirty deeds.
Okay. Wow. What the fuck was that?
I don't know.
That would have been my front door.
That was good. All right. You guys ready to see how we did here?
Hell yeah.
Tabulated the scores. It's very interesting. Okay, question 1. Brace yourself, guys, because a group of zebras is called a stripers.
Damn it.
Oh, no, it isn't. A stripers?
It isn't. No, it absolutely is not. But
Oh.
I couldn't help myself.
I was gonna say you're fucking lying.
A group of zebras is called a dazzle. Ron and Joe Mark got that correct for a point of pop.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I would have gotten that right.
Uh,
I think I would have gone with that if John Mark hadn't gotten it. So, for what it's worth, I got to brag about what I can on this game. A dazzle of zebras.
Okay,
Well,
question.
they're dazzling.
They are.
They're a
right?
dazzling,
They dazzle,
yeah.
dazzling
they sure
creature.
dazzle those fucking flies that try to land on them and can't because there's stripes, and they're like, "Oh fuck, I can't figure out how to land anymore."
Yep.
You know what I'm talking about,
Question
right?
Mm-hmm.
I do. Yeah.
Idea.
Well, we are clearly all simpatico.
Yep. No idea. Okay, question 2. This famous person once spent 2 years in a federal prison for selling 1.4 pounds of coke to an undercover officer, and I just sent you guys over a picture, his mugshot.
Oh.
Timmy? That's Tim L?
Yeah, it looks like it's Geraldo Rivera.
Yeah, exactly. It
Mhm.
kind of looks like that's an old 70s picture, it looks like.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, it looks like Tim Allen to me.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a crazy story.
Pretty nuts.
He almost did life. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
It was, I think that was in Michigan? I think it was in Detroit. Wherever it was one of those cities that had, if I remember right, it was one of the cities that had that law. It was part of we were just talking about the war on drugs bullshit. And when they were really getting aggressive, if you were caught with a certain amount, you automatically
You were fucked.
got life in prison without the possibility of parole. And I'm pretty sure he got it, but it was taken back. Either that or he just managed to dodge it. I don't remember which one, but I know he almost went to prison for life, like other people did for coke.
Crazy. It's nuts.
I get it. They selling a lot of coke. You got to deal with it. But life in prison, we all look at that shit now. That's the thing about the war on drugs. You know, a lot of those things look insane now. Also looked insane at the time. To a lot of people anyway. But anyway. Yeah, we almost didn't get without him. We never would have had my Sasquatch, which listeners of this show don't know because I just retired it for some reason. But yeah, Sasquatch was a big part of the old show, and that was half Scooby-Doo and half Tim Allen.
That's good. I didn't really know the other half.
Well, you never see the other.
That's
no
good
one ever
stuff.
sees the other half. Eh?
No one ever sees the other. That's so right. It's a secret in the woods.
That's my technique, Christopher.
Yeah, you only feel it. You know,
Feels good to do it. I haven't done it in a while.
Here.
What's funny about that is that I was working on the new issue of the Comment. I was like, what am I going to do for my How Bizarre column? And I'm going to pull up the old interview with Virginia Wade and do a little, I'll do like a highlight of that interview for her Come for
Nice.
Bigfoot porn fiction.
Have you read that?
One of my favorite episodes we did.
I got it downloaded for some reason.
I have she sent me that copy. Remember, she sent me an autographed copy. We were supposed to give it away. Maybe I did eventually. 'Cause, it's either on my bed. Like I have like 8 books on my
It's on your
bed.
nightstand.
And I think it was originally, it was originally on my headboard. It probably still is. Come for Bigfoot. My favorite part of that interview, of course, was when I was reading her own fiction back to her as Sasquatch. She enjoyed that. All right, so where are we at?
John Mark and Ron got that correct too, putting them up to nothing on Lyle. But we're moving up here to a 2-point question.
This is key.
A listener submitted question. Thanks again, TJ. A California doctor who had to make a virtual court appearance for a traffic violation might have left his Zoom meeting with a bit more trouble than he started with because he fucking did his Zoom meeting during one of his surgeries.
Damn.
Oh, wow.
That's a tied game.
Look at Lyle. Tied up? That's
Yeah.
exciting.
So
Okay, do we know
Medical
what the
Board
surgery
of
was?
California. No, I don't know what that was, and it never showed the patient, but he was standing over the patient, basically facing the camera, and all the machines were in the back beeping and everything. Like he was right there, and I don't know if he'd not started yet or what, but he did his meeting right there.
Okay.
So
So it wasn't like
he's being
hands
reviewed.
all bloodied up in the guts of
No, it didn't
somebody
show
while he
anything like
was
that.
saying.
But he was all scrubbed up and right bedside, man.
Yeah, seems like a bad call.
Ready to go.
Seems like a
The thing
pretty...
is, a lot of those calls, you get doctor calls and stuff like that. It takes months to schedule it. You know, you can't just walk away from somebody that's, needing something done and been waiting for months. It's
Right, but
just
couldn't you reschedule the Zoom call?
no, not if it was mandatory.
I
You know what
suppose
I
so.
mean? So
Yeah.
that's my life.
Yeah.
Well,
This could be
if
one of
that's
those
the
things that
case,
just
we gotta
reads-
fucking figure our shit out because that's like something's got to give, my friends.
Yeah, we can logic our way through a situation where, no, you got to be here for this meeting. But I'm about to save a life. Be at the meeting. Some people are sticklers for meetings. They love their meetings.
This could have been an email, goddammit.
You should call my page.
Yeah. Okay, all tied up. Ooh, this is exciting. Because I think we all went different ways for the last one. Yeah, I can't remember.
Oh, I gotta sneeze.
Get it done with.
Oh shit!
Oh,
Oh, bless you.
A 3-syllable
Same.
sneeze.
Okay. I don't think.
one more. Come on.
Jay,
Oh,
You look like
it's like when you're sick, you're not sure if you're done throwing up, and you're like, should I walk away from the toilet and go back to bed? It's like,
Oh, no.
in between is like,
Oh,
see in
no,
between the
no,
stores,
no.
right? Oh dear. You get halfway back, and you're like, Ugh, it's the worst.
dialysis does that to me sometimes.
Oh God,
Excuse me.
I can handle so many significant pain scale things, but stomach sickness and that nausea and that just barfing, it's the fucking worst. Yeah, it's the worst. Anyway,
Okay, last question here. Last week in Germany, an armed robber held up a bank and got away with it. When they described when the witnesses would try to describe the man, they were all really hung up on one particular thing that they were so distracted by it they couldn't really give a lot of description other than this. And the thing they all fucking referenced was his awful colored tie.
Nobody got that.
His awful necktie.
Is this a three-way tie?
Shit, we got a three-way tie.
Speaking of
son.
ties, speaking
in
of
a
ties,
in a pre-championship round.
So
what,
Unheard
so
of.
good.
what is
Of
happening?
course, I've got a great tiebreaker
Sure.
ready. So I need you guys to open up a text message or a Facebook message, if you will, either one,
Mhm.
separate, an individual message. Lyle, just
Direct
just one right to me, direct line.
Direct
Straight
to
to you,
Christopher's
baby.
heart.
I'm gonna ask you a question here, and it's closest to is gonna win, not Price is Right rules.
Okay.
Closest to.
Oh, God, the last thing
The
I see on
average-
this, this is a fucking kennel picture.
Based on
It's never going away.
Hey, I backed off. I what the
Look at this,
listeners
this
do
was
at this
like-
point, I don't.
This is the last text you sent me. What do you mean you backed off?
Publicly.
Yeah, true. You didn't send it today.
My favorite thing is seeing other people comment about it on your personal
Yeah,
post now.
That's
too.
true. Even when you do show restraint, no one else does. What are you gonna do?
My work here is done. Okay. The average, based on some studies, the average woman speaks 20,000 words per day. What does the average man speak?
Say it again. How many does a woman speak?
The average woman will speak 20,000 words per day.
Oh,
How many
interesting.
will the average man speak?
Dude, that seems really fucking high.
Well,
Like-
yeah, that's
I think I speak like 100 words a day. What the fuck?
yeah. This is definitely dependent on your lifestyle and your personality, but 100%. I tend to be outspoken.
So
Oh,
we're
no,
so we have to we have to text you the number
That you think men
that
speak,
that we think men speak on average a day
you know, against 20,000.
against 20,000 for a woman.
I'm really curious about this.
Baby, do you speak 20,000 words a day?
No. but
Baby.
I know somebody who does.
I don't know, man.
That's not me, though, right?
You need a pedometer for your lips. A lipometer.
Jesus, 20
to see
fucking
what you
thousand.
say.
That's
Never
like
know.
how many
I love
pages
how
is
hung up he
that?
is on this.
Huh?
I love how hung up he is on this.
It's a trap.
I don't know. I think it's just because
Yeah, I would wager
Yeah.
John Mark is probably lower than some. I'm
I don't
probably
talk a lot.
I don't now, but in the days of radar, see, that's tricky. I suppose in
I don't
general.
think also you realize how many words you will say in one given sitting.
Also,
Oh, I
also, I think the
do.
way to think of this is if you and just say a random woman were enjoying your day together, maybe think of it like that might be an easy way to break it down, as opposed to looking at our individual lives.
Yeah, for me, I'd say personally, I'm a better listener than I am a talker. You know, so like in a relationship, I'm probably listening more than I am talking.
Mhm.
So as a guy,
But
But 8 a day, that seems a little. You know, it depends your work and what you do for a job. You know, if you're in a gossipy kind of like atmosphere, say like retail in a mall or something.
Mhm.
Dying to see what
Versus
you guys
like-
say. I came up with my answer like immediately. I don't know if I'm
I'm
right,
still waiting for John Mark.
but I had
I'm
a,
having
I
a
have a
real hard
strong.
time with this because I think I tend to be on the whole like someone who doesn't actually
Here's what
talk
I'd
that
recommend.
much.
If you think about it overall and think of it more of a percentage, like I
Mhm.
think we all can understand
Handle
that
yourself.
maybe women
Tired.
speak more than men in an average day, on average. I
Maybe,
think.
but it's still kind of blowing my mind. 20 fucking thousand. Anyways,
Well, that's what I'm saying. Think of it as a percentage. What do you
Yeah.
think? If it's not 20,000, if it's only 10,000, I mean, like think of it that way. Like
Yeah,
where
Yeah.
do you think the
Yeah,
other
where
numbers
do
going
you
to sit?
stack up against that?
okay, here you go.
I love the shit in front of it. Okay, so John Mark said 5,000. Ron said 8,000.
That's a good average.
And Lyle said 10,000.
Hmm.
Interestingly enough, it was 7,000, which
Wow.
Oh.
is closest to Ron.
Well,
I believe.
closer to Ron,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, just barely. I was like, oh god, do we have enough? My math was failing me.
Do
for
we
a
have
second.
a
I was
double
like, oh,
tie?
God, it's fucking second time.
A double
Ron,
tie.
Well,
Sir,
see,
gonna win this time.
my plan, even though I didn't have to pick all of John Mark's answers, my plan is holding true. If it comes down to one question, even if it's against
Might go in my
both you.
favor.
All right. Well, look at that,
Well,
John. We
congrats.
hauled our way to the.
Jeff.
Was it John Hall?
Jeff.
Look at that, John. We hauled our way to the wrong name. But it's funny how many times memory has become an issue, going back to our Mandela effect.
Yeah.
I mean, think about how many times in a 2-hour span we have forgotten what we had learned or said or read right in front of us. Just like
Now, what have
15 minutes
what
ago.
have we learned this evening, children?
Uh-huh. CERN may not be satanic after all, even if they are lizard people. Well, that was fun. Yeah,
Good job.
yeah, I think we can all agree that, some women we've dated or some women we've been around with, coworkers, gab and gab and gab, and others don't. But I do think on average, boy, I don't know. Yeah, I do feel like I hear more than I say. Not on this show, of course. I'm a mic hog on the show. And see, that's where I had to really stop and think for a second. Like in Radar World, I talked and talked and talked because I had to. It was just like constant talk. But sitting down, I think sitting down and like just chilling and being in a room with somebody, I don't tend to do much talking unless someone's provoking me or asking about something. Yeah. Yep. Definitely more of a listener. Sometimes I'm a good listener and sometimes I zone out. My brains, especially since that car accident, I just like what? What? Like I have. Do you ever do that? Do you guys do that, or is it just me getting older and my brain damage, where it's like you literally, somebody's talking to you, and yet you're thinking, like you're genuinely thinking about what you have to do tomorrow or about a different thing. Do you guys do that?
Yeah, you're just distracted, right? You're
Yeah.
I
Totally.
never used to be like that. I was always like just so attentive, and my memory was pretty immaculate. Post car accident, I drift, but that's one thing that made me feel a little bit better because there's memory loss and then there's concentration loss. I think I suffer from concentration loss, which is at least fixable. There's not much you can do about memory loss, not true memory loss. So I guess I'll take that over the latter. But once I acknowledged that, I became a better listener and was like, no, you're going down. You got to listen. Someone's talking to you. Because I genuinely care about what people are saying. It's not like I don't. Well, some of the time. Jesus, when I was doing the retail end of Radar Station, oh my God, I hate small talk. And I hate when people just came in and cornered me and were just like, I was just talking about this on the Holly and Ron show, where people don't pick up on your body language when you do that. You're stepping away, like, oh, that sucked. All right, well, and then they just like inch toward you, like they don't pick up. Like some people do. The best people do. They're like, oh, okay, I see he's busy. He's backing away. It's like, all right, well, good to see you.
Right.
And then the other people like, well, and
man,
then
just keep going.
yeah.
What's funny about you, Ron, is that like you are a total introvert, but you are you can be very gregarious, and obviously you can talk, you can speak very well, and you like to talk, but deep inside you're like, why are you talking? Why are you fucking with me? Don't fuck with me. Like, it's when you want to speak and present yourself, you're very outgoing, but if you are just kind of like in your zone, it's just like, fucking back off, man. What if don't talk to me?
Yeah. If like I love conversation, I love interesting, and I don't mean like I love talking about interesting classic
exactly
literature.
What you're saying.
I just like
I know exactly
I like
what
it
you're
when
saying.
someone has something like that they have interesting stories, not just telling me about their shitty day or something that happened at work about work stories or like things like I don't know these people or someone, I don't know. There's just things that I think we can all agree probably won't interest other people. It's like, it's okay to make small talk if you have to, but if you don't have to, you don't have to. I think some people sometimes feel obligated.
and there's I think so too. There's a certain point for people like you and me where it's like it becomes uncomfortable, where it's like, okay, I listen to what you had to say now, and I really don't care, and I need to go do this other stuff and not be paying attention to you. And it's not, you're not being an asshole. You don't want to be an asshole
You sure
to
about
them.
that? I'm going to try that one. It's like, okay, I've listened to what you've had to say, and it's really not interesting. So
No, but this is what you're thinking in your
might be a
head,
better
right?
way.
It's like it's not that you want to be an asshole to this person. It's just that like your physical, your capacity, your mental capacity to deal with interacting with them
Mhm.
has reached its limit for whatever reason,
Yeah.
right? And it's just like, to be polite in a societal way, it's just like you get into this weird space where you can't like push them away without seeming like the bad person.
Yeah.
You know?
Not being able to read someone's body language is a big thing, because a lot of that awkwardness could be avoided if people just picked up on body language and respected it. And it's also about setting and who you are. You know, if you're just like some acquaintance, what makes you think you just caught me like in the middle of my work or walking down the road? What makes you think that I want to stand here for 20 minutes and hear about something that isn't an incredible story? It's a therapeutic thing. I know that a lot of people like to talk. They need to get things off their chest, or they need to feel heard. That's a therapeutic thing. But if you're not somebody that I actually care about, that's really tough. I don't think I could be a therapist for a living because of that, even if I was making good living. And I am genuinely interested in people's issues sometimes. Like, I think I can steer people in a good way. I think I have a decent outlook on certain things, or being able to read a situation differently than a lot of people do that might turn things around for the better. But I don't think I could utilize that, because I only feel that way about people that I'm, like interested in the first place, like a friend, or, a partner, or a family member. But yeah, small talk and just, I don't know. It's tricky. But I was thinking back like on radar station days and dating and things like that. And yeah, I definitely felt like I did. If someone asks me, I can easily do the bulk of the talking and get going down a road. They seem genuinely interested. But, conversation is one of those things that can be amazing, or it can be the worst thing on planet Earth. It's got to be a two-way street, and it has to be, you got to be interested, and you got to be willing to learn about the other person as much as you want them to learn about you, Hello.
Amen. Here, here.
He said
I don't know,
20 minutes
boring.
straight.
Guys, I gotta go.
Like, Ron, I heard what you said.
Right.
I'm not interested in it. I'm going to go away. Well, speaking of going away, good Lord, by the time I trim this down, we're going to be well over 2 hours. Good fucking Pete. Is it 2:40?
Yeah, I was gonna say,
man.
between doing the whole bartending thing, that had to have been so fucking annoying.
It was annoying
talking
because
and
I had to be so busy with other things. But
but like, you could only tell the story so many times.
yeah,
And when you have multiple people asking you the same shit, you're like, you're just regurgitating the same fucking story over and over again. Because it's a different person.
it's funny because I've actually thought about applying over the the last year. Intermittently thought about applying for some of these bartending jobs that came up, because I think I would enjoy it to some degree, especially on those slower nights, because the slower days at Radar, when there'd be like 4 or 5 just kooky people coming in, or maybe a drunken bachelorette party would wander in, like, what the fuck is this place? Let's stop and have those interactions could be so much fun, and just like, fucking with people and joking around and getting to know them and hearing their stories was often interesting. But those nights where we were just slammed and I was running sound and introducing people at open mic and running the bar and filling the water and running around like a fucking madman, you couldn't do it, but people still wanted to do it. That was when it was a nightmare. But yeah, I was kind of surprised with how much I liked certain aspects of bartending for that reason. And people really do open up to their bartender. And I made a lot of friends on the other side of that bar. On both sides of the bar, honestly, over the years.
Guys, I gotta go.
radarstationart@gmail.com. If you want to send us any show ideas, emails, voicemails that you record, we'll play it on the air. Tune in next week. We'll be talking about 9/11. Tell a friend about the show. Spread the word.
Congratulations to
almost
Ben
every
and
week.
TJ and Jeff, who will all be playing for a prize next week.
Can't
Or
wait.
whenever we record
I almost
next.
hope that Ben wins. That way I can send the prize that he won last time that I still haven't shipped all in one setting. No one
Double.
should have put me in charge of shipping prizes.
You son of a bitch.
Sorry, Ben. I will get on it. I just got to dig out all my paintings. They're so fucking buried. Anyway, soon, I promise. Tune in next week. Bye. all.
Night, guys.
Good night.
A striper is or a flex.
The plural is silent, and then it ain't.